Network Television proudly presents the 1986 Goodwill Games from Moscow and from Madrid. Brought to you by Pepsi. When it comes to taste and refreshment, time after time, it's Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
And by CNN, the world's most important network and a proud sponsor of the Goodwill Games.
And now, here is the host of the 1986 Goodwill Games. From Moscow, Bob Neal.
Good evening and welcome to our late night coverage of Goodwill Games 1986. We are concluding the 9th day of the 16 days of the Goodwill Games, and already 24 teams have won medals in medal competition here in Moscow. The competition has been intense. Primarily, most of the action has, in terms of medal winning, has been between the Soviet Union and the United States. Following track, the Soviet Union has really been piling up the medals and now has taken a commanding lead, 137-90 over the United States. Looking at some of the other countries who are here competing, and remember, only the Soviet Union and the United States have a team competing in all the competition. So the only real race that means anything in terms of total medals is between the Soviet Union and the USA. To the other countries who are participating, the medals mean something only in the events they're participating. East Germany has 20, Bulgaria 16, Romania 11, and if you were to go on down the list, which we won't right now, you would find that Ethiopia has 1 gold medal. You may remember Beline Densimo, the marathoner who won and represented his country so well, and the folks there are very proud of that 1 single medal, the gold won by Ethiopia. Today was finally the time for the meeting between 2 teams that had been trying to meet during 2 Olympic boycotts. The water polo teams from the Soviet Union and the U.S. The Soviet Union powerful, well-disciplined, and proving very clearly by a 10-4 score that they were indeed superior. Their goalie, Yevgeny Sharonov, with 2 great saves. You just saw him there. The defense was superb. The United States was trailing 3-0 early on, and they played an excellent game and clearly proved their superiority, winning the gold, the United States the silver. Hungary picked up the bronze medal. And tonight on our late night coverage, we're going to be debuting new coverage of a sport here at the Goodwill Games, and that's team handball. The United States has a pretty good team handball team, but it is primarily a sport that's popular in Eastern Europe. As a matter of fact, it's second only to soccer in popularity. We'll also be covering tennis from Yermala. It's been rain delayed because the weather about 500 miles northwest of Moscow has not been very good. And wrestling, we'll have the gold medal match between the Soviet Union and Bulgaria. The United States wrestled for the bronze medal and did win that bronze medal in wrestling competition. And in just a moment, we'll be back to continue with Curt Goudy, who's joined us on the set. Curt here to cover marathon, the figure skating, and the rowing. Stay with us as we continue with Goodwill Games 1986. Curt Goudy's joined us on the set, and Curt's going to be with us for the entire hour for our late night coverage tonight. Curt, we were talking about tennis coming up a little later. Tennis is being played in Yermala, which is about 500 miles northwest of Moscow. We're going to have some coverage later, but you have an interesting story about tennis. You have so many interesting stories, but you have one about that too.
Well, I have a friend named Neil Chase in New Hampshire. He's run a famous tennis camp for years up there. In fact, President Kennedy's son graduated there a few years ago from the camp. He has students there from 13 countries now, 28 states of the United States. And just before I left, we have what we call a farm up there. It's up by Franconia, Bethlehem, New Hampshire. He gave me a packet with brochures of his camp and with a handwritten note saying, I would love to have a Soviet young boy or girl as my guest next summer at my tennis camp. And I had a guide from Intours the other day. Her name was Valerie Titov, and her husband is president of the World Gymnastic Federation, and she was a famous tennis player here. And I told her about it, and she said, you give me that, she spoke excellent English, give me that brochure, I'll give it to the Tennis Federation, and I know we'd love to send a young Soviet boy or girl over to New Hampshire next summer. As if you do, I live a mile and a half away there in the summer, and I'll keep watch and everything, and as I know they'd have a wonderful time.
Take the kid to a Red Sox game.
Yeah, we'll take him down and show him the Red Sox in action. But these are the kind of outcroppings that come out of these games that are interesting.
So, you know, it always sounds corny. We talk about the goodwill that happens when people from very distant political and ideological and even cultural backgrounds get together, but it really does happen.
They just got to rub a little shoulders, you know, and get together now and then. Things do happen between people.
We were talking when you appeared with us earlier on the late night edition about your money incident, when you lost the money here in Moscow. I think it was your first day here, and at the time you thought you were maybe going to get your money returned, but we have never followed up on the Curt Goudy money story.
I lost, stuffed it in my Levi pocket, $948 in cash.
Oh, my.
Dollar bills, hundreds and like that. I got it back about 4 days ago, right the way I lost it.
It was just found on the streets, right?
Well, no, I think it was either left in the van or found on the street. They would not tell me. I wanted to give them a reward.
Yeah.
They said we gave them a reward. We gave him a beer. Hey, these guys got a pretty good sense of humor, you know. And there it was. And I had her sign a receipt on the back of my report. And I received $948 in cash, and what a story.
Okay, we're going to ask you to stick around for the whole show, but we have about a minute right now. We're going to look at some team handball.
Good.
You were telling me about the first time you saw team handball.
Montreal Olympics. I couldn't believe it. I said, what is that? They said it's a new sport just introduced into the Olympics, and I watched it, and it's funny. Volleyball, water polo, team handball, sports that the Americans really never paid much attention to. More and more, when they put them on, they watch them. They're sort of fascinating. And I think as the Olympic years go by and the Goodwill Games go by, you'll see more and more attention being given to those sports.
In our coverage of the Goodwill Games so far, we're finding really a lot of response to the volleyball coverage. For instance, we've had here the women's volleyball championship, and of course the men are about to play. Yeah. And we'll talk about that more.
Good.
Curt Goudy's going to stay with us for the entire hour. We're going to come back and see team handball in just a moment. Don't go away. We continue with the late night coverage of the Goodwill Games. Today's the first day of coverage of team handball. They're playing at, both men and women playing at two different locations, Dynamo and the Red Army Sports Palace. First of all, we're going to cover the U.S.-Japan game. Might remind you that the U.S. women's team was decimated by that Defense Department ruling which prohibited military personnel from playing in competition in the Goodwill Games. Both of the goalies of the United States team were not allowed to compete in the game because they were military personnel. The present goalkeeper has played only 3 months, and the United States playing a very tough team from Japan. So let's go now to Dynamo Sports Palace, Craig Sager and Dr. Peter Buning and team handball.
Next to soccer, team handball is the most popular sport in Europe. But as far as Americans are concerned, it's a relatively new sport. Our analyst is the man who introduced the sport in the United States in 1959. And the American team has come a long way in a short time.
Indeed, we have come a long way, Craig. From starting with a few clubs in the East, the sport has spread across the country in schools, colleges, and Olympic teams and national teams have risen in world ranking. We are now ranked amongst the top 10 in the world. We think we have some real chances for 1988.
The businessman who works out at his local club or gym regularly at a game of handball perhaps feels the game as he plays it is a sufficient test of agility and endurance. But if we got news for him, as we prepared for the Goodwill Games, we visited the U.S. Team Handball Center in Colorado Springs. Team handball is not America's pastime, nor is it America's game, and it doesn't rival the Super Bowl nor the Stanley Cup playoffs. But it does use techniques inherent to our major sports. What you just saw was a basic play in team handball. The center backcourt, Bob Jakovich, came down, threw a pass in the air to Joe Story, the left wing, who caught it in midair, threw it then to the right backcourt, Steve Goss, who put it in goal. The Houston Rockets use a very similar play. Robert Reed comes down, hits Rodney McRae with an alley-oop, who catches it in midair, throws another alley-oop to Ralph Sampson, who puts it in goal. Team handball combines the running, passing, jumping, and shooting skills of basketball. Height can be used to your advantage, but Joe Story at 5'7" drives through players a foot taller than he is, just as Spud Webb does for the Atlanta Hawks. Each team has 6 court players and a goalkeeper. A pattern offense is used, with Jim Buning relying on his teammates for protection, as Alabama's Mike Shula must do. Like Buning, Shula has a quick release, an accurate arm, and knows when to shoot.
Handball is a very physical game. Greg Morava uses strength and quickness to get past the defender. Cornelius Bennett of Alabama uses the same skills to rush the quarterback. You may dribble or run with the ball, but as Tom Schneeberger demonstrates, it must be released before landing in a 9-meter goal area. Auburn's Bo Jackson also scores by diving towards the goal. Unlike soccer, the scoring weapon is the arm, not the leg. Jim Buning winds up and fires on target, the same way Darryl Strawberry does to gun down a runner going to third. But it's not always how hard you throw the ball that counts. Joe Story's lob has the same effect on a goalie as Phil Niekro's eephus pitch on an unsuspecting batter. Excessive roughness results in a foul or penalty. A penalty shot is awarded if a player is fouled with a clear shot at goal, as Philadelphia's Ron Sutter was in the '85 Stanley Cup playoffs. 1 foot must remain on the 7-meter line. In hockey, you get a full head of steam. Once again, it's one-on-one with a goalie.
The U.S. women open the competition against Japan. They are trailing at this point 23-16. What's happened so far, Peter?
Well, it has been a disappointing afternoon for the U.S. women. They came in here fully expecting to beat the Japanese, but the Japanese team has had a very quick attack, good ball handling, and excellent no shooting.
A shot right there by Sandra De La Riva of the United States. A great block by Toyoka Kuzo. They're going. Look at this fast break. And a great shot by Michiko Terasawa and the fast break for Japan.
Yes, this has been the story of the afternoon. The Japanese are very, very quick, and they're penetrating and slashing through the U.S. defense. Our girls are just a little one step slow. But at the moment, I think the tide is turning a bit.
The score right now is 24-16. The United States with the ball. Number 3 is Meg Gallagher out to Sandra De La Riva. Back to Meg, and there's Sam Jones with a cross-court pass over to Karen Palgett as the United States trying to penetrate. And a whistle.
Yes, here she got hit on the arm. Sandra De La Riva is taking the ball to the free throw line. Right now, she's just putting the ball in play.
A flagrant foul, you get a penalty shot, but otherwise you just get the ball back. So the United States with the ball once again. Sam Jones at the top of the key over to the right-hand side to Sandra De La Riva. In the corner it goes. Sandra has it back out front to Sam. And a nice shot by Sherry Wynn in the corner.
Yes, it wasn't a very strong shot, but it was a very well-placed shot. Low on the ground, impossible for the goalie to stop.
Nice shot by Sherry Wynn, as you can see. Aim for that corner, and that's where she got it.
The U.S. team is playing a 6-0 defense. And here again, another low shot. The goalie gets beaten by it.
Lori Conan, our goaltender, does not have a lot of experience.
No, she has playing handball for 8 weeks. She is an outstanding athlete, has had a real good afternoon, but she has trouble with the low shots of the Japanese.
The name Lori Conan may mean a lot to some people who follow Big Ten basketball. She's a great scoring champion from the University of Minnesota. United States women again with the ball, trying to get some offense going. They are trailing 25-17. Sam Jones with the ball out front. And they work it to Sherry Wynn again. Another shot by Sherry for a goal.
Absolutely well played. 3 Olympic veterans, Sherry Wynn and Sandra De La Riva and Sam Jones combined for the score.
Now the U.S. coming back on defense. Trying to put some pressure on the Japanese, but also trying to give our goaltender some help.
Yeah, it's actually, it's only fair to say that our team has been handicapped by the order of the Defense Department that didn't permit our first goalie and Air Force captain to come to the Soviet Union. Kathy Callahan is a specialist for shots like that, and the afternoon would have turned out a bit different.
But Lori Conan doing the best job she can coming in. It's now 26-18. The U.S. women and the United States went on to lose to Japan. The final score, Japan 31, United States women 21.
And we'll be back with the men's competition from team handball in just a moment. First, we want to remind you of a very busy day coming up tomorrow. We're going to be carrying on the Primetime telecast tomorrow that critical game in round 2 of the Men's World Basketball Championships from Oviedo, Spain, the United States and Canada. Men's gymnastics will continue with individual all-around, yachting, from Tallinn Bay with Gary Jobson and Ted Turner. Other activities Monday coming your way. The beginning of men's volleyball, United States, Bulgaria. Remember now, the United States thought to be probably the best men's volleyball team in the world now. Most of the players are still there from the Olympics. Of course, the Soviet Union are going to be strong there. That will be great competition. Wrestling, we'll have tennis, and also team handball will be involved in day 2. And in just a moment, we're going to come back and continue with handball. We'll be taking a look at the men's team. They'll be in action. It's a very good team handball team. So stay with us. We'll continue with late night coverage of the Goodwill Games.
We return to the Dynamo Sports Center with U.S. men back on defense in their opening game against Czechoslovakia. The U.S. men pulling a major surprise. They are leading Czechoslovakia 22-19.
It has been a fantastic game for the U.S. men so far. They came out playing concentrated, hard handball. They shot excellently, and they have been leading all the way.
Just over 3 minutes to play in the game in what's been a very close, intense game. There's a shot and a goal by Peter Baumgartner from Czechoslovakia. The score now 22-20.
It's going to be a rough 2 minutes here for the U.S. to pull off the victory. We have a veteran Czech squad, and these fellows will not lose very easily.
Both teams have got a lot of experience. The United States setting the offense. Number 8 is Steve Goss with the ball over to Bob Jakovich, trying to move the offense and get a penetration. He takes the shot, but it's blocked.
Oh, Bob didn't like this call. He thought he had been fouled and should have had a penalty, but the referees didn't see it that way.
No time to argue either. You have to get back very quickly on defense, and another goal by Czechoslovakia. Libor Savadini with the lob shot.
And now we're down to 1 goal difference.
22-21.
Kessler has had a fantastic afternoon. He has stopped 2 penalties and has had several point-blank saves.
The United States men holding on to a 1-goal lead. We're down to the final minute and a half. Steve Goss out front. Over to Joe Story.
Now the experience of the players will have to show.
The rest of the offense, Jim Buning over to Joe McVeigh. Back out to Bob Jakovich over to Goss. That's Steve Goss, number 8, with the ball, with a nice pass back to Jakovich. And he goes in for a shot and is knocked to the ground.
In handball, you can't stall. It's not that you have to maintain the attack. And it will be very difficult for the U.S. team here to pull off the victory.
Again, the score 22-21, final minute of the play. That's Jakovich with the ball. Over to Joe Story. Up the middle, but a great save by the Czechoslovakian goaltender.
And Joe was fouled in the act of shooting. There's a penalty shot coming up. This could be the victory for the U.S.
On that penalty shot, you will line up, and it's you against the goalie one-on-one. Coming in to take the shot is Greg Morava.
Yes, the solid line right in front of the arc is the 7-meter line.
So a 7-meter shot coming up for Greg Morava.
Greg Morava has had a great afternoon. He went 4 for 5 in the first half.
But what a great kick save by the Czechoslovakian goaltender. He is rising to the occasion.
Oh, my God. This minute won't end.
22-21, the United States with the lead, but Czechoslovakia with the ball. The U.S. men back on defense, trying to be very tentative here and also trying to help Billy Kessler, their goaltender, so that he doesn't have as much pressure on him.
For some reason, it seems that the Czechs are trying to draw a penalty so that they can tie the game.
Less than a minute to play. Czechoslovakia with the ball, driving in. Kessler with a nice save, gets the ball for the United States, and the U.S. has control. It's Mark Carlson that's just checked into the game for the United States. Now he comes back out.
Scott is our defensive specialist. He spots Jakovich on defense. Jakovich plays on offense.
You can have substitutions in handball at any time as long as you go. The player coming in doesn't come in before the other player leaves.
Exactly like in ice hockey.
Joe Story over to Goss, to Jakovich. Right-hand side of McVeigh, back to Jakovich, and over to McVeigh in the corner to Buning. And the United States men trying to move in for a good shot, but they're knocked to the ground by Czechoslovakia.
That foul could have been a 2-minute ejection.
But the U.S. men will get the ball back again. 22-21.
In fact, it is a 2-minute ejection. Czechoslovakia is playing 1 man short now.
Power play for the United States. Goss with the ball up front. working with Djakovic. Djakovic in. The shot is deflected and out of bounds, but it was hit last by a Czechoslovakian player, so the U.S. men will get the ball again. Holding on to a slim one-goal lead, 22-21.
These are tense moments.
Toss for the ball. And what a shot and a goal by Steve Goss.
The goalie never saw the ball, and that salts away the victory for the U.S.
Steve Goss puts it in with 19 seconds to play. The U.S. men with a 2-goal lead. All they have to do is hold on to this lead in the final seconds. What a shot by Steve Goss. Czechoslovakia, though, has time to come back and get a quick score and hope for a turnover, try to have the ball back. Here's a penalty shot coming up against Billy Kessler. And a kick save by Kessler.
The third penalty saved by Billy Kessler.
And that should do it. The United States men with the ball. Greg Marava looks up, and that's the end of the game. The U.S. men with a major upset, Peter.
Well, it is probably the best game that I've seen our team play. And it bodes very well for the rest of the tournament. Tomorrow is Iceland. After that, the Soviet Union and Poland.
The U.S. men winning their opening game in team handball, 23-21 over Czechoslovakia.
Yes, it has been quite a surprise here. And if our men maintain their level of play that they have shown today, they're certainly on line for a medal.
The U.S. men with a victory in game 1, a tremendous victory with an upset over Czechoslovakia, and we could have a major story developing in team handball.
So the U.S. men with an upset to begin play in team handball. They'll be playing at the Red Army Palace tomorrow against Iceland. We'll, of course, have coverage. Kurt, you and I are enjoying watching that. Don't get to see much in the States on TV.
It's a weird-looking sport. It's got everything in it, though. They bring the ball down, they move it around like basketball. They fast break like hockey and basketball, and they throw the ball like we use our hands. They use their feet in Europe. We use our hands in America, baseball, and all our sports, football. It's a very interesting sport and a lot rougher than it looks.
Yeah, very rough sport.
Yeah.
And speaking of basketball, U.S. men today were upset by Argentina. They're still alive for a medal, but I know you saw that game. I'm interested in what you think about, A, the U.S. team. It's their first loss. They're still alive. And that game and how they can come back when they play Canada tomorrow.
Well, I don't, any team that shoots below 50% free throw shooting, and we got some college All-Americans in that team, and their field goal shooting was poor. They played a very poor game. One thing that I can't understand is why Dave Robinson's not scoring more points. His fundamentals don't look good. He's not planting his feet, spreading, and coming up with some power off the floor. I thought he would be a big scorer here. He hasn't been so far. They've got to shoot better, or they're not even going to get into the so-called, you said, the Final Four, the semifinal. I think they'll win their next 2 games and move in there, but it's no cakewalk for them. And what are they? How many? They only won 1 world championship in
1954. Yeah. When the World Championships first started, they were all held in South America, and because of the different seasons, the championships were held when the United States players were in college. And so early days, as you'll recall this, I'm sure, they were using, this is in the 50s and early 60s, using amateur teams out of the AAU group, the Oilers, right. I think it was the Denver Chevrolets lost in the 1950 game.
AAU ball used to be big, but we never have sent our great teams to these to world games.
And once again, this is certainly not the best amateur team they met.
Will Chamberlain once told me he had a goal, a dream of playing in the Olympic Games. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, you're a professional. He said, there's not a true amateur in the world.
I think that's probably pretty accurate, too. We're going to be rejoining Curt Goudy as we continue with our late-night hour coverage of the Goodwill Games. In just a moment, we'll be back to recap the men's 10-meter platform diving competition at the Olympic complex for diving. You stay with us as we continue on the Goodwill Games coverage. In diving today. Matter of fact, it was not only excellent, it was very beautiful. And a Soviet diver is the man who ran away with the gold. His name is Sergei Gurilev. He clinched the platform gold at the Goodwill Games today, producing a spectacularly clean inward 3.5 somersault with a tuck, for which he garnered 86.40 points, the highest single dive score. Urlev finished with 609 points after 10 dives and won the gold. American Dan Watson took the silver. China's Gao Feng won the bronze in the men's 10-meter platform diving. And it was raining today at Yermala, where we covering tennis competition, but they finally got the competition underway as they moved it indoors. So let's go now for a report on the tennis competition about 500 miles northwest of Moscow, and here's Barbara Estep.
On July 5th, the Goodwill Games came to Moscow. And a week later, we came to the seacoast resort city of Yermala, anticipating great weather and good tennis. Well, the weather has not been great, but the tennis is more than holding up its end of the bargain. Unfortunately, for the second day running, the organizers here have been forced to cancel all outdoor play, and they face the nightmare task of trying to reschedule all matches onto 2 indoor courts. So let's go in now and have a look at today's action. This is the Yermala Tennis Center, where first-round play in the women's singles began today. The first American to play was 20-year-old Ronnie Reese, who came into the tournament seeded 8th. Ronnie's a 2-time All-American, but still manages to maintain her academic standing on the Dean's List at the University of Miami, where she majors in business management. Today, Reese had to manage one of the toughest first-round draws in the tournament, pitted against 18-year-old Leyla Messi of the Soviet Union. Leyla just returned from a very successful fortnight in England, where she got to the finals of the junior event at Wimbledon. She has few flaws in her game, she hits well off both sides, and she plays with a good deal of confidence. Reese's game depends on her big lefty first serve, and she held it love in the first game of the match. But serving at 1-all, she failed to get any first serves into play and quickly found herself down a break. Each player held serve for the next 6 games. Reese broke back in the 10th game to force a tiebreak, and it was here that we saw some of the most consistent rallies of the match. The girls traded powerful ground strokes, each content to stay back and rally until just the right opportunity to become a bit more aggressive. Several points were quite lengthy, particularly in light of the fact that the players were on a very fast carpet. When pulled into net, Messi displayed a comfortable volley, but the age and the collegiate experience of her opponent was just a little too much for the Wimbledon junior finalist. And Reese, at 6-5 in the breaker, again uncorked her big first serve to take the set. The second set went entirely on serve until 4-5, when, as early in the first set, Reese failed to get a single first serve in play. She quickly got down love 40, saved 1 set point, then Messi evened the match at 1 set all. The third set was riddled with service breaks, and each player held match points on her opponent's serve. But this set, like the first, went to a tiebreak. At 4-all in the breaker, Reese worked herself into position for an overhead to go up a mini break. 5-4 with 2 serves to come. That was the perfect time to uncork her 5th ace of the match, 6-4. A forehand volley error prolonged the agony, not just for Ronnie Reese, but also for her coach, Sheila McInerney. But the number 8 seed finally clinched the match, and we'll see this clean backhand winner down the line. can see for yourself that Ronnie Reese was more than a little relieved to have slipped through the first round with a very close match. Final score, 7-6, 4-6, 7-6. Well done, Ronnie. You couldn't have done it in a much tougher way than a tiebreak in the third set.
Thanks a lot. Could have been a little easier, but I'm glad I just made it through it with a win and go on to the next round.
Well, as the number 8 seed, I thought it was a little unfortunate that you had to come in and play your first round match against the girl who was a finalist at Junior Wimbledon this year.
That was a tough one. It was probably one of the toughest first rounds in the draw. It's just the luck of the draw. She probably just missed. She could have been seeded 9th or 8th. You know, it's just everyone's from a different country, and it's hard to get the seeds exactly, you know, right all the time.
Well, also the seeds were made just prior to Wimbledon, so her Wimbledon result really didn't count. Did it help you, or was it a hindrance to you to move indoors?
I think it's better for my game. I don't know about her. I think she might have, I think she's probably better on red clay. I don't know why, because she doesn't, you know, come in as much. For my game, I'm a serve and volleyer, and this fast court probably helped me. But I think it was kind of hard because we've been practicing on red clay, and it's so much slower. And to come in here, I was hitting a little late. But, you know, after getting into the match, I started hitting it better.
Well, you have a huge first serve. Now, in the third set, your service percentage was only about 50%. Were you getting a little tired?
At the beginning of the third set, I was really tired, and I almost couldn't even move my legs anymore. It was like, just keep going, you know, it's still close. And I think that the crucial point was 3-2. I think she was up like 45 on my serve. And I came back and won that game, and I thought, you know, it's 3-all. You can still, if you push yourself, you can still win this match, and I did.
After the first day of competition in round 2 of the World Basketball Championships in Oviedo, Spain, the city that the United States is playing in, along with 5 other teams in their particular group, Group A, the United States disappointed, upset 74-70 by Argentina. The United States were plagued by turnovers. Argentina moved the ball inside, had great perimeter shooting, and were really a team of destiny for this one game. Argentina had not done very well previously, and as Bob Knight said on our telecast, he thinks they may not do very well after this, but they had their day in the sun, defeating the U.S. in basketball 74-70 today. I do want to remind you that the United States is definitely not out of contention for the gold medal or to get that round. They simply have to win their next 2 games in this round robin in the second round. We'll have U.S. versus Canada tomorrow, and that'll be carried on our primetime coverage of the Goodwill games. And right now we want to go back to some wrestling today. The Soviet Union wrestled Bulgaria for the gold medals in the Goodwill game. The Soviet Union has been unbelievable. They have not lost a single match in competition here, not a single match. And as we pick up action in the gold medal game versus Bulgaria, the Soviet Union is 29-0 and going for number 30.
If you sense a look of concern on the face of Atanasov of Bulgaria, I think you may be right. The Soviet Union now ahead in this gold medal match. They've already won it 9-0. David Gobedjishvili in the blue singlet. The last match here in the dual meet competition in the Goodwill games. Gobedjishvili, a 1985 world champion. The only real close match he's had, and that was a defeat by the hands of America's Bruce Baumgartner in the World Cup in April of this year. We'll see the 2 of them, Baumgartner and Gobedjishvili, going at it for the individual gold medal tomorrow evening. But right now, the job at hand for Gobedjishvili, continue this streak that his Soviet countrymen have put together. They've won 29 matches in a row and have yet to lose here in the Goodwill games. They beat Mongolia with a shutout 10-0, did the same to Japan 10-0, and right now lead 9-0 over Bulgaria. In over 50-some minutes of matches against the Soviets, they have only allowed 11 points to be scored against them. The United States expecting to be in this finals match, tied a very young Bulgarian team that right now is showing us they weren't that good. The USA, however, did win the bronze medal by beating Mongolia earlier this evening 8-2. Not much action here in this heavyweight match. Gobedjishvili takes the top position as Atanasov of Bulgaria is called for his first caution. Neither wrestler being very aggressive in my mind. Our arm control here by Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union, trying to lock up a cradle position. We don't see a lot of this in international competition. It's more of an American move, but occasionally you'll see some of the Soviets pick it up. Unable to make it work. Atanasov covering up. 1 minute remaining in the first period. David Gobedjishvili lives in Tbilisi, Republic of Georgia, in the southern part of the Soviet Union. He goes to the university down there and is majoring in economics. Gobedjishvili has won by fall in both of his early matches, but doesn't seem to be too pressed into action here in this match. He's called now for passivity, and Atanasov of Bulgaria has an opportunity to work a turn against Gobedjishvili. Secures that leg, trying to put a lot of pressure on the hip back area. Who uses that gut wrench, gets the 2 points. Gobedjishvili counters back out of it and gets 1 point for the reversal. Surprising that Gobedjishvili went that easy with that gut wrench put on by Atanasov, but Atanasov takes the early lead, 2-1, or the late lead here, I should say, in the end of this first period. That's the first time any wrestler for Bulgaria has had the lead in a match against the Soviet Union. So at the end of the first period, Atanasov of Bulgaria leads David Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union by a score of 2-1. Individual matchups coming your way tomorrow night, as 10 wrestlers, 20 wrestlers will be going for the gold medal in their weight classes. The United States has 6 wrestlers. Kevin Darkus at 125 will wrestle Sergei Beloglazov. John Smith of the United States will wrestle Isaev of the Soviet Union. Obviously, the Soviet Union will have all 10 of its wrestlers in the finals. Andre Metzger will go against Fadzaev in what should be a very exciting match at 149.5. And David Schultz, Olympic and world champion for the United States, will wrestle Varaev of the Soviet Union. And, of course, Bruce Baumgartner of the United States will take on this man, countering out of this move right here, David Gobedjishvili, as he goes for the title at heavyweight. Jim Scheer of the United States will also join that group of 5 that I listed, as he will take on Khadartsev of the Soviet Union at 198 pounds. 3 Bulgarians and 1 Turkish wrestler will also be in the finals against Soviets in the other weight classes. You're watching heavyweight action in the final match of the gold medal match between Bulgaria and the Soviet Union. David Gobedjishvili in the blue singlet, right now being beaten by Atanasov of Bulgaria. The Soviet Union leading right now 9-0. No one has really even staged a close match to this point, although Atanasov is ahead. This would be the first loss for the Soviet Union if he is able to hang on to this lead through the duration of this second period. Gobedjishvili was a 1985 world champion, driving here to try to penetrate on Atanasov of Bulgaria. Gobedjishvili's only loss coming at the hands of Bruce Baumgartner in the World Cup in Toledo in April. It's the only loss he's had in a long time in the heavyweight weight division. 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining. Atanasov of Bulgaria does have 2 cautions against him, in spite of the fact that he is leading 2-1. It's very unusual to see a wrestler who has scored technical points be cautioned out, but Atanasov of Bulgaria really not doing very much right now, protecting that lead that he did get with the gut wrench turn early or late in the first period. I think the Well, they're calling for a caution here. Kind of surprising against Gobedjishvili. That will be his second caution. I guess we don't always see the matches the same. I sense right there that Atanasov was backing off. I still feel that way, but the officials make the call against Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union. Atanasov takes the top position, trying to work that gut wrench again, and he does. That's 2 points for Atanasov of Bulgaria. He makes that gut wrench work again. Gobedjishvili gets a reversal after the turn, but Atanasov of Bulgaria leads. This would be the first loss for the Soviet Union for any one of its wrestlers in this competition. Atanasov just not that good a wrestler to be doing this, but nonetheless he has the lead. Gobedjishvili getting fired up here, gets the takedown. Less than a minute to go in this final match. I'm sure the Soviet Union would like to make a clean sweep of all of its matches. They would not particularly like to have their world champion David Gobedjishvili lose in the final matchup here. 40 seconds remaining. In international wrestling, there are no ties. Atanasov of Bulgaria has 2 two-point moves. Even if Gobedjishvili gets the takedown, he's going to need more points. There it is. 1 point for the takedown. He ties the match, but he's still losing. He's still losing. Referee stops the action. Since Atanasov had those 2 gut wrenches, he is still ahead. Gobedjishvili needs to put the pressure on. 17 seconds to go. Atanasov only protecting. Gobedjishvili in on the leg. Oh, he attempts to throw. It's off the match. They're going to go 2 and 2. 2 and 2. Gobedjishvili driving in on the action. Well, the match judge and the match chairman scored 3 points for Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union. He had the initial shot, which took Atanasov of Bulgaria to his back. He gets the 3. Atanasov counters back and puts Gobedjishvili on his back, but only gets 2. So the Soviet Union keeps their winning streak alive. 10 in a row tonight. 20 matches before that, 30 matches altogether. They win the gold medal. They shut out all of their opponents. Soviet Union wins the gold medal. The USA did win the bronze earlier by beating Mongolia 8-2. Tomorrow evening, here we take a look at that final action that decided this match. A little bit controversial, I'm afraid it will be. Gobedjishvili driving him to his mat from his feet. He gets the 3. Atanasov countering the move, taking Gobedjishvili to his back. He only gets the 2. The deciding factor in the match gives the margin to Gobedjishvili. Should be some exciting matches. All 10 of the Soviets will be in the finals tomorrow. We'll see whether or not anyone, 6 Americans, 3 Bulgarians, or 1 wrestler from Turkey can beat a wrestler from the Soviet Union. The Soviets win the gold. Bulgaria is 2nd. The USA is 3rd. That's the action here from Druzhba Sports Arena and Freestyle Wrestling.
It's time for Goodwill Trivia. I'm really enjoying this one tonight on behalf of parents everywhere. My hint is that it's something you say to your kids. I have a son in college and summer school. He thought he was escaped from my calls. But through the millions of dollars here, we get to say it. The word is Yezdeli Uroki. Yezdeli Uroki. Yezdeli Uroki. That's pretty close, I think. And that means do your homework. Parents the world over say it. Yezdeli Uroki. It'll probably have the same success in Russian as it does in English. Sure, I'll get to it later. I got a game of ball to play right now. Curt, thanks for being with us tonight. You are going to be covering Tuesday and Wednesday figure skating with Peggy Fleming.
Have 4 world champions here. Brian Bottano and Debbie Thomas. Yeah. Debbie from Stanford, the world champion. And then we have Bestemanova and Buchan, the dance world champions, and Gordevia and Grinkov of the USSR, the pairs world champion. It's an exhibition, but they have about 20 programs of the greatest in the world. It'll be skating here Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
And Peggy Fleming was on the other night. She said she's going to look forward to working with you again. She really admires you a lot.
She's a wonderful guy. She did a great special out of here in the 70s, From Russia with Love, from Moscow and Leningrad, so she knows this country well.
Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
We will just say on behalf of Curt Goudy, this is Bob Neal, Das Badanya from Moscow. Gets heated up as they meet Bulgaria. Today, the first day of men's volleyball, and the U.S. team gets heated up as they meet Bulgaria. The U.S. men ranked as one of the strongest teams in the world. And you can make no doubt about it, this team is looking for gold.
Network Television proudly presents the 1986 Goodwill Games from Moscow and from Madrid.
Welcome back to Day 10 in our coverage of the Goodwill Games. And Nick, Charles, we have an action-packed day today following the busiest weekend of the games.
That's right. Always a new sport to come up and catch our interest. This is the Soviet Union, of course, Bob, but the world power in men's volleyball belongs in the United States. And the Americans swing into action here tonight. The U.S. team, led by the spectacular team captain, Curt Goudy, takes on Bulgaria. And we'll have the action. But there's more. The wrestling individual finals are happening right now. The Soviets so far have been unstoppable in team competition, but the Americans send out 6 wrestlers tonight, including Olympic gold medalists Dave Schultz and Bruce Baumgartner. If you've been following the action in the Goodwill Games, you know our coverage extends to Spain, where the men's World Basketball Championships are being played. Later tonight, we'll show you the United States in a must-win game against the aggressive and quick national team from Canada. That's coming up on Primetime. And there's one more thing. The Soviets currently have 2 cosmonauts in space, and our Marianne Laughlin spoke with both of them from their spacecraft today. So stay tuned. We've got a wide range of things to show you this Monday from Moscow.
Well, it was a busy weekend of coverage here at the Goodwill Games. A disappointing weekend in terms of gold medals for the United States team. They did win medals, but they won no gold. That frustration was probably symbolized best by the U.S. team losing in water polo to a clearly dominant Soviet team. But it's a new week, and it's a new story, and we're going to be telling that story all week. We'll be following the hopes of that very strong U.S. men's volleyball team, a team that'll be going for gold, and they are favored. In a moment, we'll go with round 1 of the volleyball, USA versus Bulgaria, right after this. Stay with us. Well, we've been talking about how great the U.S. volleyball men's team is expected to be, but let's not leave out the other contenders, and they are very strong. Make no mistake about that. The Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, France, and even Brazil, possibly, all are contenders for the medal. Let's go now for the opening game of the USA and Bulgaria to the small arena at Lennon Central Stadium. Here's Leandra Riley and Mike O'Hara.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Lennon Central Stadium's smaller arena. In volleyball history in the Soviet Union, there is a volleyball hero. His name is Vladimir Savin. Not only was a great player in the 50s, but he also was a tremendous promoter of the sport. So in 1976, they decided to name the tournament after him. It is called the Savin Cup. It has been played every year here in the Soviet Union, with the exception of the Spartacade and, of course, the year of the Olympics. Knowing that this tournament is now called the Savin Cup, let me bring in our expert color commentator, 1964 Olympian, Michael O'Hara. And Michael, the United States has played in the Savin Cup many, many times, but the best they have ever done here is second place. And I know you have a personal story about Vladimir Savin.
Savin was really a huge contribution to the sport of volleyball. He not only became the top man in volleyball in this country, but also became the #2 man in the entire FIVB, Federation Internationale de Volleyball. And he rose to being on the executive committee of the International Olympic Committee. So he was huge in other parts in addition to volleyball. So the guy made a fantastic contribution to this game.
In volleyball competition here at the Goodwill Games, the Savin Cup has been used as part of it. This is our first game for the USA. They are taking on Bulgaria. Both teams, in essence, in these Goodwill Games are undefeated because they have not played. How strong is the USA?
The United States is the best team in the world, and we have the very best coming up against them. Of course, the Soviet Union played them close in the last World Cup, played a 3-hour and 35-minute match, and narrowly lost to them. And of course, now they have the home court advantage, so they're going to be even stronger. Bulgaria, on the other hand, is big, strong, and powerful. The United States, to beat them, is going to have to serve them very tough, and they're going to have to move that ball around on the spiking attack, because these guys can block like crazy if the set is static and discernible. So the key is going to be to have that quick offense going against this tough, big Bulgarian team.
Just like the women's volleyball competition, there are 2 pools. The USA is in one pool along with Bulgaria. The Soviet Union is in another pool. Should the Soviet Union and the USA survive, then they'll both meet each other in the medal rounds. But right now, let's take it one step at a time. It's the USA against Bulgaria.
Our competition is underway. The score is 1-1, and the USA is serving. The USA is wearing the blue. Bulgaria is in red. And this is the first game of a 5-game match. 15 points wins the game.
The United States just went ahead 2-1. So far, they've missed 3 serves in the first few minutes of play, and they're a little bit shaky out there. By the way, Leander, this is the walking wounded. Pat Powers was ill yesterday. Steve Timmons split but on his spiking hand between 2 fingers, and he had 12 stitches about 10 days ago, so he hasn't been able to practice at all. And Steve Salmons, one of the starting middle blockers, has back spasms, and he's not playing yet.
Dusty Dvorak setting. He was also the server. And I guess we should call him split-fingered Timmons. Put that one away.
That's right. He got a few fingers up there blocking him and off the block and out of bounds.
3-1 USA. Timmons tries to get it up. It's a side out for Bulgaria.
Bulgaria is huge up there. They are strong-looking players.
Into the block. It's still alive. And that's out of bounds, side out for the USA.
Both teams kind of feeling one another out.
Doug Party serving. Party tries to get it up. It goes off his chest, side out for Bulgaria.
Doug Party is the starter in place of Steve Salmon, and he's big and strong from UCLA. Not used to starting. This will be a nice opportunity for him.
Dvorak back stud. Two serving 3. Pat Powers. They're going to call net violation against Bulgaria. Side out USA.
There's the big power hitter for the United States, Pat Powers, a very erratic player earlier in his career, but at the Olympics in '84 he came on and was the man who led the way. Too bad. Nice dig by Dave Saunders, but into the block, United States. Side up.
Borislav Khahzar serving for the Bulgarians. Ouch. the floor on that one.
Steve Timmons looks like that taped up hand is pretty good. Maybe he's got a little more weight due to the heavy tape. He won't be, by the way, jump serving. He has one of the best serves on the team with a power jump serve, and won't be using that today, I'm told. That was number 2, Pitio Dragovic. Here he pounds that ball, finds some real estate over on the U.S. side.
Arsen Golubinov with the service. Nice off-speed move by Dvorak.
Yeah, he dumps that ball very nicely. He's got excellent peripheral vision, and many feel, here he goes, dumps that ball on the second play. The defense is ready for that slow, high set to block, and of course, no one was there.
Timmons will serve as soon as the floor wipe is taken care of. Every time a player dives for the ball, his perspiration gets on the floor, and it has the potential to cause some injuries, so they try to keep the floor as dry as possible. Beautiful dive. Curt Goudy.
That's Curt Goudy, the bread and butter man for this U.S. team. He's 6'3", which is short for an outside hitter, 190 pounds, 25 years old from Santa Barbara.
Side out for Bulgaria. 2 serving 4. Timmons into the block.
There's that hit from behind the 10-foot line, and Steve Timmons does that as well as anyone in the world. He's the thunder man for the team.
Curt Goudy serving. Dvorak setting. Dave Saunders goes through 2 hands. Point for the USA.
Hitting the tips of those fingers, this block is up there strong, and timeout called by Bulgaria.
Over Bulgaria in their first game in a best-of-5 match. This is their first round of action in the Savine Cup competition as part of the Goodwill Games.
Here's the instant replay. Petkov, number 7, goes up high, and only a one-man block. If they can do that one-on-one, that hitter's going to get down a lot.
Dave Saunders.
Dave has the quickest arm on the team. Here he comes, the set. Dave is 6'3", 193 pounds, 25 years old from Pacific Palisades, and played his college ball at UCLA.
Saunders again. Off the block. Side out.
As compared to the women's U.S. team, this men's team is strictly Southern California oriented, and in fact 11 of the 12 players grew up in the Southern California area.
And 3 of them are from Pacific Palisades.
That's right.
They've got a tremendous secondary school program there at the high school.
Pacific Palisades High. The 3 players are Steve Salmons, Dave Saunders, and Ricky Ludes. All 3 fine, very basic players. Coach Howard Instead has done a nice job over there.
Three serving 5. Bulgaria trails by 2. Timmons gets the side out for the USA.
Those are the quick sets that the United States feels they have to use in order to be successful. And so far, that strategy is working out nicely.
Bulgaria is tall, they're big, they're strong, but they're not quick, which is why the USA take advantage of quick setting.
That time, the secondary official saw a touch by the United States. Side out. One-handed set very nicely by Dusty Dvorak. Beautiful play. Dusty, 6'3", 180 pounds, 27 years of age, from Laguna Beach, and he played his ball at USC, where he brought them into the NCAA championships in 1980. Was named the outstanding setter in the World Cup in Japan last year in 1985.
Back set goes to Golubinov. Side out Bulgaria. As we look at Curt Goudy. This is Golubinov with his jump service. They're saying it hit the net, and none of the officials agree with Goudy's claim.
Pretty quick set again to Steve Timmons, and these United States players, even though they're the walking wounded, they look like they're ready to play. They like that ball in the air with not anybody up blocking.
Set out for the USA. It is 5-3. Timmons with the service. That's long.
There's the Steve Timmons serve. See, he's so used to the jump serve that suddenly he's having to serve the flat ball because of his sore hand, and not very used to it. Made a mistake there.
Dvorak to Timmons.
Right back at you, Steve Timmons. He does that so beautifully. He and Pat Powers are pictures to watch. Those of you that want to see how spiking should be done and how setting should be done, watch Powers, Timmons for the spiking, and Dusty Dvorak for the setting.
Nice fake by Bulgaria, but the USA did not fall for it, so it is now 6-3. Curt Goudy serving.
Nice play. Spiker from the back row hitting behind that 10-foot line. The key is you have to take off from behind the line, and then when hitting the ball, you can come down in front of that line. So it becomes a formidable weapon.
There you can see that 10-foot spike line. Right down the middle of the court.
That's right. That's your 10-foot spike just now. Steve Timmons.
Side out USA.
In the USA wall that time, you've got two great blockers, Doug Partee, who's in there for the first time in the starting lineup that I'm aware of, and Dave Saunders, who is a nice blocker as well.
Dusty Dvorak serving. Dvorak gets it back up, but it goes over. Golubinov hits into the block, but they say never went over. Point USA.
Here's the instant on that, and the block was there, but wasn't necessary because the ball failed to negotiate the net.
Into the block. Dvorak sets. Goes behind. USA's ready. Dave Saunders goes through the block.
The hammer. UCLA man, outside hitter, has one of the quick arm swings. He replaced Aldous Berzins as the second passer on this team, and that's a very vital position, as we'll talk about a little later.
8-3. USA is on top by 5. Goes off the block and out of bounds. A break for Bulgaria.
If you watch the United States, here's the spike, and the ball was well blocked, but out of bounds. There are two players out on the U.S. team that is doing all the passing for that team. And one of them is Curt Goudy, who is regarded as the finest passer in the game today. And the other used to be Aldous Berzins, who was one of the top 2 pass receivers. And that's where your offense starts. So those two people make it go. The other 4 players can stay out of the way and not worry about anything except hitting the ball and, of course, setting the ball for the setter. And so there's a tremendous value in being able to have 2 players that can pass that ball beautifully. And they're looking to Dave Saunders to do one of those.
We'll be going back for more volleyball coverage with the USA and Bulgaria. We'll also be having live coverage of the individual competition for gold in wrestling. There are 6 U.S. competitors in that event. But right now, we want to take a pause to do something that we found very interesting, and I hope you do too. One of our co-hosts, Marianne Laughlin, had an opportunity today to do something very extraordinary. She spoke via satellite with 2 Soviet cosmonauts who are in orbit right now, and she had a chance to review what would have to be called the very impressive Soviet space program. We've been going to venues literally all over the world in our coverage of the Goodwill Games, to Spain, to various places in Moscow, back and forth between the United States, up to the satellites, back down to the Earth in our transmission. But right now, we're going to visit a location, in a few minutes, I should say, we're going to visit a location that even we haven't visited yet. Let's go to Marianne Laughlin.
The most popular museum in the United States is the National Air and Space Museum in Washington. Well, this is the Soviet version here in Moscow. The Soviet space program has long been a source of national pride. It's been one of firsts. Sputnik was the first satellite to orbit the Earth. Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space when his rocket was launched in 1961. The museum chronicles these events and other Soviet achievements in outer space, such as the first animal to ride into space. While the United States was first to the moon, the Soviets chose to explore the lunar surface with unmanned vehicles. Their manned space program focused on Earth orbit, with an emphasis on long-term spaceflight. The Soviet crew now orbiting the Earth in Mir has set the endurance record for life in space. On a previous mission, the two cosmonauts spent 273 days in the Salyut space station. This time, they've been up for 124 days. The first and only joint mission between Soviet-American spacemen took place almost 11 years ago today, July 17, 1975. A Soviet Soyuz spacecraft linked up with an American Apollo ship. It was a historic handshake in the heavens, a handshake remembered 1 week ago during the opening ceremonies of the Goodwill Games. An exciting day for all of us here at the Goodwill Games. Some excellent athletic competition, of course, and a special treat for us here at the TBS Broadcast Center. Today I had the opportunity to talk with Soviet cosmonauts Leonid Kizim and Vladimir Soyunov while they orbited the Earth. We understand, of course,
Одну секундочку.
how far away you are from us.
Скажите, как далеко вы от нас?
But were you able to see, by any chance, the opening ceremonies, celebrations of the Goodwill Games?
Скажите, пожалуйста, несмотря на то, что вы действительно далеко, вы смогли увидеть открытие игр доброй воли?
Да, безусловно.
Yes, we watched the monitors, reliable monitors, and watched the opening ceremony. When we were flying over the territory of the Soviet Union and on the day of the opening ceremony, we watched the segments of the TV program covering the opening ceremony from the Lenin Stadium. And the most interesting moments of this ceremony.
A very impressive home away from home. That's just a little bit of the coverage. We'll have even more of that in our primetime coverage of the Goodwill Games tonight. That happened just a little while ago with Marianne Laughlin and the two Soviet cosmonauts who are in orbit around the Earth. And it's just more of the Goodwill philosophy behind these games, the connection, the information, and we hope that in its own small way, it has some impression on you and people all around the world. In a moment, we're going to continue with our volleyball coverage. We'll also be going to wrestling live. They're in individual gold medal competition today. Stay with us as we continue right after this. Coverage of the individual competition for the gold in wrestling today. 6 U.S. wrestlers are competing. First up for the United States is Kevin Darkus in the 57-kilogram class. He's wrestling perhaps the best of the class, Soviet Sergei Beloglazov, and he has certainly been impressive in his previous matches. We are going now in progress to the second period of that Kevin Darkus match. We're going to Russ Hellickson, who is our commentator, and by the way, the head coach at Ohio State University at Druzhba. Russ?
Thanks, Bob. And we're not in outer space here. We're down on the wrestling mat. Kevin Darkus of the United States here in the red singlet, losing right now to Sergei Beloglazov of the Soviet Union 4-0. Beloglazov, a very dominant wrestler, here attempts a headlock. In international wrestling, he does not lose any points because he is the aggressor. Beloglazov, a 1980 Olympic champion and a 4-time world champion for the United States, or for the Soviet Union. Kevin Darkus, not a slouch for the United States. He was a silver medalist last year in the World Championships, so he's pretty good himself. The Soviet Union very, very dominant in the wrestling competition thus far. They have not lost a single match in this competition. In team competition, they won the gold medal by shutting out every opponent. Bulgaria for the gold medal yesterday, Mongolia and Japan earlier in the competition. Beloglazov being stopped here, potentially dangerous hold on that arm of Kevin Darkus. Kevin Darkus already has one caution for passivity, has been called against him. You receive 3 of those, you're disqualified from the action. Beloglazov, a very aggressive wrestler. Darkus attempts a single leg shot there, but ineffective. Beloglazov called by his peers the second best wrestler in the world, losing that honor to teammate Arsen Fadzaev, who will be coming up here later at 149.5 pounds, also against the United States. All of the matches today for the United States, 6 wrestlers going for the gold medal will be against Soviet wrestlers. Beloglazov controlling the leg here after getting that takedown. Now leads 5-0. 2 periods in international wrestling. Each period is 3 minutes long. This is the second period. 40 seconds remaining in the match. Kevin Darkus has lost to Beloglazov 3 times prior to this outing. He felt that he was learning something each time he went up against him, but Beloglazov here in his home country obviously fired up. He's been a favorite of the crowd throughout this competition, has dominated. This is a pretty close match, at least from the standpoint of how Sergei Beloglazov generally wrestles. Dominates most of his opponents. Attempt there for a carry off that arm by Beloglazov, but slides off. At this point, they're pretty sweaty. Comes back in on a single leg. Lots of action. One setup, back to another. Time runs out. And so the first gold medal here, 125.5 pounds. Sergei Beloglazov of the Soviet Union, very accustomed to winning gold medals, claims that honor, beating Kevin Darkus of the United States 5-0. You're looking at a great one. Sergei Beloglazov. Here we take a look at some of that action. The last takedown where he did a short drag, spin around for the takedown. Not as one-sided a match. According to Sergei Beloglazov, he likes to beat his opponents very, very convincingly. The next matchup at 136, John Smith, United States. We'll be back in a moment.
We're continuing our coverage now of men's volleyball. The USA team is ahead of Bulgaria in the middle of that match. I want to remind you that in addition to the Goodwill Games tournament of volleyball, this is also the prestigious Savin Cup that's held in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union has never lost in the Savin Cup. So this tournament serves as both the Savin Cup officially and the Goodwill Games officially. So it's a very good test of a strong Soviet team that has a tradition of winning, but the U.S. is said to be the favorite this year, and they are leading in Bulgaria. And now let's rejoin at the volleyball venue.
The USA has the service. Our score is 5-5. This is the second game of the match between the United States and Bulgaria. The United States took the first game 15-8. This is the second, and as I said, the score is tied.
That time they had no deception. The United States put that ball high in the air to Curt Goudy, and of course he got roofed. Nice block.
Galabinov with a jump serve, but it's out of bounds this time. Side out USA.
Galabinov played in Italy last year and was one of the stronger players in Italy.
The 3-man block works.
Curt Goudy, Dusty Dvorak, and Doug Partee. Dusty, for 6'3", is an amazingly good blocker, as is Curt. Doug Partee ready for that quick set. Dusty fed him.
7-5 is our score.
Here it is, only a one-man block up there.
And it's amazing, in slow motion, the ball is still a blur.
They call him under the net on that play, so it's side out. Nice soft shot. Curt goes up, takes a little bit off of it instead of ripping it, and defense dug in, not able to make that quick change.
Set.
Yeah, that was a nice set, though, by Clayman Christoph, number 8. Here he is, one-handed set, beautifully executed.
Into the block.
Again, the pass was not well done, and therefore there was no deception, and Dave Saunders had to be eaten alive.
And it is 6-6.
I think that would have been out, but they played it.
When in doubt, play it. Don't let it hit that back line. Khadartsev, nice pass. Here it is, a quick play, nicely hit, cross court sharply. So we have a brand new ball game here while they do the floor wipe. Dusty Dvorak back to serve. Dusty took a little sabbatical right after the Olympics and went over to Italy. He had just gotten married. His wife wanted to see Europe, and unfortunately they didn't cover all his expenses, and so he came back and rejoined the team right away.
An excellent block executed by Bulgaria. When Tonev, number 6, is in the front line, they're very strong with the block.
They really are. Unless there's deception, the spikers are in trouble for the United States. They need to have 3 potential hitters hitting that ball, and even use the backcourt hitter whenever possible, because they always have a good back row hitter in Timmons and Powers.
This is Plamen Christoph serving for the Bulgarian team. 6-6 is our score. This is the second game of our match.
Nice play.
Partey.
They're using Partey a lot. Pat Powers is out. They're giving him a rest, letting all the players get the kinks out, seeing who's going to be a factor in this. Troy Tanner, by the way, for Pepperdine, was a player that played for Marv Dunphy before he became the U.S. coach. He was the Pepperdine coach. And so a lot of these new players are coming aboard from Pepperdine, who won the NCAAs the last 2 years in a row. You have 5 UCLA players, 3 from USC, and 3 from Pepperdine.
Illegal hit called against Bulgaria. Point for the USA. It is
back to the guy who passed them so well, Dave Saunders, and Saunders with a quick arm swing put the ball down.
Timeout has been called by the Bulgarian team. Our score, the Bulgarians 6, the USA 9.
Первый перерыв во второй партии.
So the United States won the first game in that match. They're ahead in the second game. We'll be continuing to follow the U.S. men's volleyball game and with Bulgaria as we go along. In just a moment, though, we're going to rejoin Russ Hellickson at Druzhba Multi-Sports Arena to continue with our live coverage of the individual wrestling matches for the gold today. 6 U.S. wrestlers are in competition. The next U.S. wrestler will be John Smith, and he'll be wrestling Petar Isaev of the Soviet Union. We'll do that right after this. So the men's volleyball team off to a good start. They won the first game. They're leading in the second game. We'll be going back to that shortly. We're also covering the wrestling live as it happens, and we're standing by to go back to Russ Hellickson at Druzhba. I understand the John Smith match is ready right now. Let's go right back to Druzhba. Russ?
Thanks, Bob. You're looking at little baby here, Nancy Schultz of the United States, little baby Alexander, brought over to this Goodwill Games by David Schultz. Thought they should watch their husband and father wrestle in this competition, but right now we're going to start the second gold medal match of the day. John Smith of the United States versus Khahzar Isaev of the Soviet Union. This action at 136.5 pounds. You're watching some of the action. They had presented some awards. Did a lot of international wrestling, and it obviously paid off for him as he made this USA team to compete here in the Goodwill Games. Khahzar Isaev of the Soviet Union, very anxious for this match to begin. We watched him for 4 minutes warm up, stand over in the outskirts here, waiting to come on. He had his shirt off and warm up off and all set to go, so he's excited about being out here wrestling in the Goodwill Games. The Soviet Union has not yet lost a match. They've won 10-0 over every team they competed against in the team championship, which was completed yesterday when they won the gold medal over Bulgaria. And they've already won the 125-pound weight class today. And hopeful that they will get another gold medal here at 136.5 in international wrestling. But he's also very good on his feet, so he's had a lot of success. Isaev of the Soviet Union, a relatively young wrestler for them, 23 years old. He was a 83 European champion, but he's not had a lot of success for them as most of their wrestlers. He gets the first takedown in this match. Well, no points are given. In international wrestling, and I explain, a lot of times I may make a call. We have 3 officials on every match. I watch the referee, but he makes a call. It must be confirmed by either the mat judge or the mat chairman to go on the scoreboard. They did not feel there were any points. No points given. Right now, a caution has been called. The Soviet Union elects to take this top position. He wasn't very successful on his feet. See if he can turn John Smith of the United States. Isaev having the leg of Smith bent up, putting a lot of pressure on here. The Soviet Union, a lot of the European countries in the past have been very, very good at this turning position, been able to use what are called gut wrenches and leg lays very effectively. The United States in the recent years getting a lot better at this, and one of the reasons that this USA team over here is a pretty good one. It was disappointing that the team did not get into the finals against the Soviet Union, but nonetheless they have a lot of chance here to wrestle Soviet wrestlers. 6 Americans in the finals. We've already seen one, and John Smith attempts here a duck under, but Isaev backs out of it. Isaev back in on a single leg. Does a nice job there of dumping it back to the side, goes out of bounds. He should receive 1 point. Well, the referee made the call, but no confirmation. Generally, in international wrestling, when one wrestler is in such control when they go off the mat, they will give the 1 point. The feeling, I guess the philosophy being that he would have gotten the point, let's give it to him anyway, but he received no confirmation. The crowd, a very knowledgeable crowd in the Soviet Union, freestyle wrestling being one of the top sports in the Soviet Union. A number of times I've been in this country, tremendous crowds for wrestling. The wrestling crowd here not bad for these Goodwill games. Call here against Isaev, a caution for stalling. It's his turn to be passive. John Smith of the United States also puts Isaev down on the mat. He will take his turn here at trying to put Isaev of the Soviet Union to his back. John Smith trying to work an arm bar. Soviets very good on top. They're also good on bottom. Since they spend so much time working here, it's very difficult to get them out of position in order to get control. Isaev winning.
We'll return with more Turner Network Television Goodwill Games coverage after this from our local stations.
John Smith, the United States, coming back out into the center. This match resumes. Second period, 136.5 pounds. Coach Dan Gable just spent a minute with his athlete, I'm sure telling him to keep the action, keep the pressure on. You've got this match close. I don't know if he expected John Smith, the United States, to be able to win this match, but he's in it tight. It's 0-0. Very unusual to see an international match with no points scored in the first period. Generally, one of the wrestlers will be called for cautions much more than 1 time apiece, as happened in that first period. Nice single leg attack there by John Smith, and he scores the first point for that takedown. An upset in the making here. John Smith of the United States, a young but very, very competitive athlete for the USA, going to get the first win over the Soviets. It'll be the first time the Soviet Union has lost in this Goodwill Games competition. This could really be something for this young man from Del City, Oklahoma. Still a high school or still a college athlete. He has 2 years left. Just over 2 minutes remaining in this second and final period. Great action here. This will be a great match for the United States. They looked good in their last 2 matches, a dual meet competition yesterday and the day before, but had a bad start, and I'm sure they'd like to have a big win. But Isaev of the Soviet Union spins around behind. No control yet. A nice scramble there by John Smith, the United States. They go off the mat. No point. No point. Great moves by Smith. What a scramble. He was so close to being taken down. Oh, the crowd calling, booing, and the officials did make the 1 point call. That's a long time in between. A long time in between when the action took place and that call going up on the scoreboard. 1 point for Khadartsev of the Soviet Union, and John Smith will also receive a caution for that. They're saying that in order to prevent the takedown, he ran off the mat, and so he also gets cautioned for it. I don't think it was a very good call. He was fighting, scrambling, countering, and doing what I thought was an exceptional job, and gets called for the caution. No action on top. The referee, if he feels there's nothing happening, blows his whistle, brings them back up to their feet. Minute and a half remaining. The match now tied, but John Smith of the United States has 2 cautions against him. If he gets that 3rd caution, he will be disqualified from the match. Lots of setups. There's Coach Dan Gable of the United States. He was disappointed in that first match. I'm sure had lots of words for his USA team when they tied Bulgaria on Friday. They wrestled a lot better after that and have been looking pretty good in this individual gold medal quest, particularly John Smith here at 136. In on a single leg again, takes him down. There it is. Regains that lead, 2-1. Less than a minute remaining. John Smith, the United States, working on that gut wrench. Here's Ivan Yurigin, coach of the Soviet Union, 2-time Olympic gold medalist himself. Didn't look particularly happy there. Stopping the action. Officials saying nothing happening. Isaev hurt a little bit here. Coach Gable up on his feet on the sidelines, yelling at John Smith. Great competitor himself, Olympic champion, 9 national titles for Iowa. Heck of a coach. He's in your corner. You got to have that great feel. You got that great support. There's a turn. Isaev turning back in to try to counter. John Smith, United States, gets 2 points. Now extends his lead to 4-1. This is great. United States going after their first gold medal. The first time the Soviets will lose. Well, they gave 2 and 2. I disagree with this coin. They gave 2 to Isaev because they said John Smith rolled across his back, but he does pick up another 2 here. In spite of the way they're calling, surprising me. Time running out. There it is. There it is. Great. Great. First loss for the Soviet Union in 32 matches in the Goodwill Games, and the youngest American, our first gold medalist, John Smith of the United States, wins the gold medal at 136.5 pounds. He's got to be happy. USA delegation standing on their feet, applauding this victory. John Smith of the United States. Now we'll take it back to Bob Neal.
Russ Hellickson, I'm sure American viewers got a goosebump or two there. The first time the Soviets have lost in the entire competition. John Smith with the win. And now let's go directly back to an exciting volleyball game. Leandra Riley, Mike O'Hara at the small arena at Lenin Central Stadium.
Continuing with our coverage of game number 2, Bulgaria has the serve. They're down by 4 points, losing the first game, trying to make something out of the second.
Curt Goudy hitting off the block and out of bounds, and the small contingent of Americans up in the stands get excited and start a little chant. Maybe that'll help wake everybody up.
And off the block, a nicely executed hit by Petko Petkov, number 7 for Bulgaria. Jump service.
Nice pass.
One-handed set. Petkov tries to jump it over, and it works.
That's to Dvorak right there in the center, which he rarely is on the blocking assignments. As I say, Dusty at 6'3" is a very good blocker because he watches the hand of the hitter and makes the adjustments. A lot of players tend to blink when that ball is being hit 100 miles an hour at them. Curt Goudy. The Dvorak to Goudy combination is unbeatable. They've worked together so closely, and that ball is just coming up there saying, hit me, hit me.
13-8.
The setter can make you a hero or a bum so easily because if they set it too close, you get trapped and you look like you can't hit the ball well. If you set too far back, you don't get a real shot at it. So that setter is so vital.
Dimos Tonev going into the game again for Bulgaria, side out. It is 8 serving 13.
He's the only lefty that's been in the game so far, and a hitter or a setter that's left-handed has an advantage because it's a little unusual, and the block is not used to it. It's like a lefty boxer or tennis player.
Puts a different kind of English on the ball.
Right.
Once again, it is side out USA. Curt Goudy will serve.
I like the looks of Doug Partee. He's playing very steady in there. Big boy, 6'5". Nice player.
That goes through a USA block, side out for Bulgaria.
Dragiev seems to be doing all of it. Here he puts the ball down the line, out of bounds. He and Petkov are the two guns for them offensively so far. Dvorak's serving from close this time instead of back where he missed the last one. Ooh, big lefty goes up. Florov.
The substitution coming in for Bulgaria. Lamin Christoph will go in.
Florov not too good in the backcourt, apparently. They like him in the front court.
Side out USA. And Steve Timmons is waiting anxiously on the sideline to get back in the game.
He likes to play. He's trying to develop a new ball.
That was never over. The official signaling is the U.S. did touch it, but I disagree with the call. Side out Bulgaria.
Bulgaria winning the battle at the net, and they'll do that as long as the deception isn't there. Key to the United States attack is hit it where they ain't and fool them.
I guess it's really hit it where they ain't quickly.
Ooh, and Saunders did just that, cross court, and that was the 12th put away of the match for Saunders. He's leading the United States in the spiking department.
13-8. 2 more points and the USA wins this game.
Nice dig, Dusty to Varaev. Keep it alive. Not that time. Good first dig though by Dusty. Someone tries to wrist it up with his left hand. Not quite able to negotiate that feat.
Eight serving 13. Bulgaria trying to stage a comeback. The USA will play everybody in their pool. They are in what we call Pool B. The rest of the teams in there are USA, Bulgaria, obviously, Japan, and Czechoslovakia. The 2 teams with the best records will survive, and the 2 teams from the other pool. And the other pool is the Soviet Union, Brazil, Poland, and France. And as we can see, Steve Timmons to get back in the game for the USA. And that spike went out of bounds. Nobody touched it. Point for Bulgaria.
Suddenly they sneak back into making this a tight game, 9-13.
USA can't close the door.
Timmons growling. Big red. I started to say that he's working on a fluorescent volleyball that he thinks will maybe replace the white ball, just like in tennis.
I thought you were going to say for night volleyball.
By the way he ripped his fingers as he was out playing on the beach circuit and went up to block, and someone got him with the bigger, heavier beach volleyball. They make it, prefer it was a little heavier to handle that wind and sun and so on.
And that just split the hand right open. 14-9, the USA is on top, and one more service, and this game could be over, but they still have to win a 3rd game to claim a match. Predictions in the pools show that the United States and Japan or Czechoslovakia will come out of this pool.
Yeah, both the Czechs and the Japanese are playing better. The Japanese used to be sensational. They've had a dip, and they're now trying to make a comeback. That'll be a nice competition to see who comes out.
Game point on the line. That's it. 15-9, the USA defeats Bulgaria for the 2nd time in this match. 15-8 was our score in the first game. 15-9 our score in the second.
Well, following a disappointing weekend for the United States in terms of winning gold medals, it looks like things could be back on track for the U.S. teams. You know, they started so very strongly with the U.S. swimmers, but over the weekend could manage to win only silvers. The U.S. already has won 1 gold medal. The Soviet Union in wrestling that we carried live just moments ago. John Smith, who is from Oklahoma State University, just to give you a little background on John, who won that gold medal, giving the Soviets their first wrestling defeat in any single match in the entire tournament. John Smith goes to Oklahoma State. He has 2 years of eligibility left. He redshirted last year. His hometown is Del City, Oklahoma, and they must be proud of John Smith there. Shortly, we're going to be going to some more wrestling. Andre Metzger is up for the United States in 68 kilogram today. Dave Schultz, of course, one of the more popular and well-known wrestlers. Also Jim Scherr, and will be wrestling for the United States, along with the champion Bruce Baumgartner, who will be wrestling a very tough wrestler from the Soviet Union also. It is individual matches for the gold, and there are 6 United States wrestlers competing. All the Soviets made it, because until John Smith won today, the Soviets did not lose one single match in team competition. But things looking up a little bit from the United States point of view. Also, the U.S. volleyball team is winning, as you were seeing, and the U.S. team handball team has been surprising. They opened up with a major upset of Czechoslovakia. As you know, team handball is an Eastern European sport that is second in popularity only to soccer. It started here, it began here, and the United States just now coming on, but they seem to be coming on pretty strongly. Now we're ready to go back for more live wrestling coverage. Russ Hellickson at Druzhba.
Thanks again, Bob. Well, a lot of excitement here for USA athletes and coaches. Still savoring that victory by John Smith of the United States. But we've got a big one coming up here right now. Andre Metzger of the United States in the red singlet will be going against Arsen Fadzaev of the Soviet Union. Fadzaev looked at as the #1 wrestler in the world. Informal poll taken by coaches and athletes at the World Championship last year. They said he had the best technique, was the most aggressive, dominated his opponent. He's the best there is. He's won over 100 matches in a row, has not suffered a defeat in over 3 years, so this be quite an assignment for Andre Metzger. But this young man from the United States is very, very set on beating Arsen Fadzaev. Fadzaev gets the first score, takes that front headlock, and turns Andre Metzger to his back. Metzger has started slow before and still won. But Arsen Fadzaev, a very sound technical wrestler with a lot of ability and a lot of confidence right now after all those years of never having lost in this sport. Leg lace here, combination by Fadzaev, trying to get more points. Anytime you can turn your opponent to his back, you're going to pick up points in international wrestling. You get 1 point for the takedown and 2, 3, or 4 points if you turn him to his back, depending upon how you do it. We got more of that exciting volleyball game coming up between Bulgaria and the United States, so stay with us. Andre Metzger, he's wrestled over 1,700 matches in his career. I asked him what kept him going. Why did he keep wrestling? And he said, guys like Fadzaev keep me going. I've got to beat him. I want to prove that I'm the best. He's always in shape, always ready to go, so maybe this will be the day. His teammate John Smith has already won. I'm sure he'd like to get the gold medal as well. Minute and 40 seconds remaining in this first period in international wrestling. 2 periods of 3 minutes each. They used to be longer. Just after the 80 Olympics, shortened from 9 minutes to 6. Sometimes I think to accommodate the Soviets, who've not always been in the greatest of shape. Back into that leg lace. Got the ankles twisted over. Metzger counters, but in the process is hipped over to his back. Fadzaev of the Soviet Union will get 2 points for that maneuver. Andre Metzger comes up with his first point, a 1-point reversal. A change of the control position. He'll get 1 point for that. Action stop. 1 minute, 5 seconds remaining in this first period. Arsen Fadzaev of the Soviet Union leading 4-1. Young man there looking on. Fadzaev in on a single leg. Andre Metzger countering out. Reaches behind that far thigh. Metzger keeps the whizzer, but Fadzaev gets the 1 point for the takedown. Coach Dan Gable doesn't often show a lot of emotion, but he's with you all the way. Got a little excited in that match at 136 when young John Smith won. They're brought back to their feet. 35 seconds to go here in the first period. Andre Metzger right now an assistant coach at Indiana University. Metzger maybe showing Fadzaev a little too much respect here, really not doing much to set him up. Fadzaev getting in on a leg, doing most of the attacking. Time running down. There you see Ivan Urigan, national coach for the Soviet Union. He's been in that position for a number of years. Will probably stay there through 1988. There we have the end of the first period. Arsen Fadzaev of the Soviet Union ahead. A look at the crowd. Andrei Metzger of the United States out of Bloomington, Indiana, two-time USA national champion. He was also the outstanding wrestler for the United States this past year in the national tournament. I asked him why when he started wrestling so young and did it so many years, how could he stay in the sport so long?
People like Fadzaev keep me going. I mean, you know, I wanna hammer on him because he's beat me, and you know, he doesn't just beat you physically, and he doesn't just beat you on the scoreboard as far as that goes. He, you know, it's further. It goes to your heart, you know, because somebody's actually outscored you in a match. I don't really feel like the thing is, I don't feel like I'm beat. I feel like I get outscored. I don't think anybody's ever made me quit, and they score more points than me maybe in a match, but they don't ever make me quit.
And you're right, he is never going to quit. Right now he's down 5-1, but I've seen Andrei Metzger come back before. Granted, Arsen Fadzaev is one of the best around. Right away, back in on that single leg. This is what makes him one of the best. Keeps the pressure on, very aggressive. You've got to realize how good Andrei Metzger of the United States is. He's a tough wrestler. He's competed for us in the World Championships, been a medalist. He was our outstanding wrestler this year in the national tournament. And he's being controlled here by Arsen Fadzaev of the Soviet Union. Fadzaev putting pressure on here, trying to work for the turn. Referee stops the action again, brings them back to their feet in the center. Metzger needs to pick up the pace here. I'm sure when he was in the corner there during the break with Gable, he told him the same thing he told John Smith. It seemed to work pretty good with John. Keep the pressure on. That's where we have been able to beat the Soviets before. We wear them out. And I would say that Andrei Metzger was probably our best conditioned athlete coming into this competition. A number of the Americans not putting in a lot of time training for the Goodwill Games. Seemed like they spent more of their time in training camps. Didn't have a long training camp coming in. There's another takedown by Fadzaev of the Soviet Union. He now leads 7-1. It doesn't look like Andrei Metzger is going to be able to top Fadzaev of the Soviet Union unless he really hits some big throws here. Fadzaev showing why he's the #1 wrestler in the world. Enjoys a 7-1 lead. Metzger trying to work a front headlock. Action stopped as Fadzaev's hands interlace in the singlet of Andrei Metzger. Minute and 25 seconds remaining in this second period, the last period of this 149.5-pound match. The USA still has 3 more wrestlers. Another shot by Fadzaev. Metzger trying to counter out here, putting a lot of pressure on his own knee. Fadzaev scrambles behind, gets another point. Well, no point yet. They did. Yes, they did. The mat judge and mat chairman confirmed it. They gave 1 point. Metzger did do a nice job of scrambling. However, Fadzaev did get the point. He controlled him momentarily there when they went down to the mat. Metzger not quitting. As he said, not quitting. 40 seconds remaining. 3 more American wrestlers, David Schultz, Jim Scheer, Bruce Baumgartner, still to go in this individual gold medal competition. Perhaps Dan Gable would like to be out there again himself. I'm sure he can remember when he won the Olympics in 1972. Probably one of the most successful wrestlers ever for the United States, well, without a doubt. 181-1 in high school and college, Olympic world champion. Andrei Metzger gets another point for the takedown. Still keeping that pressure on despite being behind 8-2. We'll be watching that gold medal presentation for John Smith shortly. There we have the end of the match. Arsen Fadzaev of the Soviet Union beating Andrei Metzger of the United States. We'll be back in a minute. Sports Arena for the award presentation at 136.5 pounds. A very exciting win for John Smith of the United States. The first gold medal for the U.S. We hope not the last today. Young man from Dell City, Oklahoma, student at Oklahoma State. Still has 2 years remaining of college wrestling. He took the year off this past year, redshirted, got a lot of international competition in, and I'm thinking right now he's awfully glad that he did. Gold medal in the Goodwill Games for the USA, the first athlete here in this competition to beat a Soviet. They went 32 straight matches without a loss. They won the team championship. Here's the silver medalist at 136 pounds. Isaev. It's not often that you see the Soviets. They have dominated international wrestling for a number of years. You don't see them lose too often. We haven't seen much of it here. For over 20 years, they've been the team that wins the world championships. Very unusual, having been at a lot of competitions in the United States, the award ceremonies here. Very, very nice. The gifts, very meaningful. Third place, bronze medal, Alban Kumbarov of Bulgaria. Part of that delegation that upset, I guess you could call it an upset. They tied the United States 5-5 in their first day of action, and it really kept them out of that gold medal quest as a team. The Bulgarians beaten very, very handily by the Soviet Union. Sound to it. What a great thrill for John Smith of the United States winning the gold medal. We'll be back after this. We're back at Druzhba Sports Arena, now wrestling at 163.5 pounds. Dave Schultz, the United States, just taken down. You see the scoreboard behind you. The blue 1 given to Adlan Varaev of the Soviet Union for the takedown. The colors on that clock corresponding to their singlet colors. David Schultz, the United States, receiving quite an applause when he came out on the mat. He's recognized internationally by a lot of these people. He's probably the most recognized wrestler for the United States since Dan Gable. Great technician. He appears to have cut open that ear. He had it taken care of through the training camp in some early competition, and he evidently opened it up a little bit. We stopped action, but we'll be back resuming here shortly. The clock runs up instead of running down. You'll see that seconds don't tick off, they tick on. A lot of twisting and turning, but no points being scored here. Oh, nice job by Varaev. He comes up with control, gets another point for the takedown. I think this will be an upset if Dave Schultz, the United States, gets beat. He was an Olympic champion in 1984. He's been a world champion for the USA. Matter of fact, won that championship right here in the Soviet Union. So he's wrestled before these people. He's experienced, and he has a lot of poise. Adlan Varaev only having won the European championships for the Soviet Union. They got a couple young wrestlers in their lineup. He's one of them, but he certainly wasn't over-impressed by David Schultz's credentials before coming out here on the mat. He's already taking a 2-0 lead. There we see the blood on David Schultz's ear. He has cut that open. Coach Gable coming out to take a look at it. Cleaning up the mat. David Schultz for the United States, just taking the job as assistant coach this coming year at the University of Wisconsin. He had been out at Stanford for a considerable period of time, serving there as assistant coach along with his brother Mark. Mark Schultz did not have a great tournament here. He got sick. Unfortunately, he also was a world and Olympic champion, and we won't be seeing him in the championship action coming up. Schultz attempting to penetrate on Varaev. 1 minute remaining. 3 minutes in this first period. Varaev using a front headlock. That's kind of a twist. David Schultz has one of the most awesome front headlocks in the international wrestling, and right now he's having one applied to him. They should stop this very shortly. No action. David Schultz, 27 years old. People wondering how long he's going to stay in wrestling. I'm sure he wants to go to the 1988 Olympics. Varaev only 24. The Soviets having a very predictable style. They take that stance, put their head down low, prevent you from penetrating in them, can become very frustrating even for people who have been in the sport for a long time. It's hard for you to penetrate on the legs, which are your percentage techniques in wrestling. They're very powerful hips, able to attack out of it. David Schultz, looked at worldwide as one of the greatest technicians. A lot of people talk about him. Here he is on a single leg. I had talked with Dave earlier and kind of wanted to get his response as to that great recognition he has received from his peers.
Ignorance on the part of those other people. I really don't feel like I'm that good, you know. It amazes me when I get into matches sometimes and the guys fall down for me and let me do this stuff to them. But I don't know.
Did you learn it on your own? Did you pick it up by being in a lot of competition, associated with a lot of coaches, or was there a specific method by which you came to that type of those types of technique? Because you do have a lot of technique. I mean, even I would say that.
Oh, thanks. I've had hundreds of coaches. It's kind of laissez-faire, though. The only system is just that I love it and I listen to people and watch people, and the same way you do, you know. I'm interested and I just keep trying to improve. That's all. I owe a lot to these people. They've taught me an awful lot. Not directly, sometimes by doing it to me, but I owe it to hundreds of people. I've had hundreds of coaches.
And a lot of people right now listening to David Schultz, but right now...
I owe it to hundreds of people. I've had hundreds of coaches.
And a lot of people right now listening to David Schultz, but right now he's behind 2-0 in this match. Adlan Varaev of the Soviet Union attacking first here again. I don't think I've ever seen Dan Gable as excited in the corner as I saw him during the break. He was chastising David Schultz, I'm sure, telling him that he's giving too much respect to this very young Soviet opponent. He should be dominating the match, and he's not. Schultz coming up with a turn. There it is. Very nice crotch lift off that attack by Varaev. David Schultz of the United States will receive 2 points. He turned Varaev's back to the mat. He's going to get 2 points for that action. Looks like he might try it again, although Varaev has stepped inside of the leg there, and he may block it off, but Schultz will try the move again. Well, there it is. Well, they're giving 2 to Varaev. They're giving 2 to Varaev. Matt Judge and Matt Chairman not agreeing with the referee's call. 2 points. 2 points. Score very confusing here. I looked at the Matt Chairman and the Matt Judge's score. They gave 2 for Schultz, putting a lot of pressure here. The fans wanting to have this call potentially dangerous on that armbar, trying to turn him. This is what makes David Schultz so tough. When he has to come on, when he has to put the pressure, he can really come after you. Official right now calling for the match to be stopped. Right now on the scoreboard, they have 2 and 2. They've made a mistake. I think the head scorekeeper here put up the 2 points. Although I've been fooled before by what has been called. Right now, I think that David Schultz of the United States should be ahead 4-2 in this match. He turned Varaev of the Soviet Union to his back twice. Should receive 2 points for each one of those. The officials right now having a conference. Varaev did a lot of fighting there in that last little flurry. He's a little bit tired. Trying to decide, and there it is. 4-2 for David Schultz, the United States. That's what it should have been. Soviet fans upset. They, of course, want their countrymen to be ahead to give him the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes hard to argue with these Soviet fans. They know their sport. Minute and 5 seconds remaining here in the second period. Dave Schultz coming back in this match, down 2-0 at the end of the first period, showing what makes him one of the toughest competitors in international wrestling in the world. He needs to keep this pressure. He needs to keep this pressure. We're 1 minute away, 50 seconds away from another gold medal. Second for the United States. Dave Schultz brought along his wife, Nancy, and his baby, Alexander. Give his son an early first-hand look. He's only 3 months old. He's got to be proud of what Daddy's doing right now. Here, a caution being called against Schultz. He isn't being very aggressive, trying to protect that lead. You got to be careful in international wrestling, protect the lead, and all of a sudden you end up behind. But he did a lot of work there to score those 4 points to get that lead. I guess he deserves a little breather if he can afford it. 28 seconds remaining. 28 seconds remaining in the second and final period. Varaev dropping down very quickly to try to get that gut wrench. He's got it locked up. He's got it locked up. Schultz needs to counter this. He can't afford this 2-point turn against him. 15 seconds. 15, almost got it. Schultz fighting very hard to prevent that gut wrench. If you've not been in this move, you don't know how much pressure you are getting on those ribs. Time running down. There it is. There it is. A great match for David Schultz of the United States. He will become the second gold medalist. Acknowledging the crowd a little bit. Dave Schultz of the United States winning the gold medal here at 163 pounds. Another medal to add to his Olympic gold and his world gold that he has received in this sport. I'm sure it'll make him even more popular in the Soviet Union. I saw them earlier coming up and getting autographs from David Schultz. Second gold medalist for the United States. Here's a look at that turn that scored the points. Takes Varaev of the Soviet Union across his back. That's the move that won it for him. He did it twice. He did it twice. Won the match. David Schultz, second gold medalist for the US of A. We'll be back in a moment.
The U.S. was shut out of gold medals over the weekend, but as we get underway here Monday must be a good day for the United States athletes because the wrestling has been hot and heavy, Nick.
Boy, it has. And, you know, it wasn't when the U.S. really got off to what I call a sleeping pill start. And Dan Gable was obviously mad. He hadn't had time, Dan Gable, the coach of the U.S. team, to really get this team together. The training camp was very short and hastily put together for some reason, and they didn't look very good against the Bulgarians. Since then, the United States has distinguished itself. John Smith and Dave Schultz now winning against the seemingly invincible Soviets. The Soviet Union had not lost, as we've talked about so much, in 32 straight matches. It looked like they were going to go undefeated through this whole thing. Things have changed.
Yeah, John Smith, Dave Schultz picking up the gold, and we're about to go now to the third match in just a moment to Jim Scherr. But first of all, let's have a look at what we're going to have in prime time tonight. A lot of activity. Men's basketball, the game versus Canada, important second-round game. The United States upset over the weekend, but still in contention for a gold. We'll also be covering the Soviet Union versus Spain. That is a major game in Group B. There's two groups there battling for the Final Four. That'll be played in Madrid. Men's volleyball continues. Soviet Union and Brazil, both of them are contenders for the gold, although the United States are favorites. Other activity tonight will come your way. Men's gymnastics, the all-arounds, team handball. U.S. team surprisingly good in this one. And in yachting, we'll be going up to Yermala with Gary Jobson and Ted Turner reporting on that. But in just a moment, we'll come back, and Jim Scherr in the 90-kilogram class from the Jim is an assistant coach at the University of Wisconsin, will be wrestling against the Soviets. Stay with us as we continue coverage.
Well, the Americans on a little bit of a roll here at Freestyle Wrestling. Coming to you from the Druzhba Sports Arena. You're looking at a match beginning at 198 pounds. Jim Scheer of the United States wrestling against Khadartsev of the Soviet Union. Khadartsev, only 20 years old. Jim Scheer, 24. It's the first time we've seen Jimmy Scheer at 198 pounds. He's been wrestling most of his career at 180. His twin brother, Bill, has been putting in most of the time at 198. As a matter of fact, he was the world champion last year. But they had a little conference and decided that Jim ought to have a little time at the weight where he doesn't have to cut. So he's here at 198 pounds in the Goodwill Games. 2 gold medals already for the United States. You know, a lot of people were talking after the '84 Olympics that a lot of those people who got gold medals weren't that good. But Dave Schultz, one of those people from '84, showing that he is that good, dominating, winning 4-2 in his gold medal match. Khadartsev of the Soviet Union coming up with the first point and hitting a gut wrench, taking Jim Scheer of the United States off the mat. He picks up 2 more points for that action. That's got to be tough on Jimmy Scheer's ribs. He hurts his rib, tore a rib cartilage in training camp. It really hadn't affected him too much in his first 3 matches here in the dual meet competition, but perhaps that tight gut wrench might have had an effect. Going off the mat, referee bringing him back to the center. 1.5 remaining in the first period. Khadartsev of the Soviet Union. His brother will be following him at 220 pounds, the only non-American final. We don't have anyone from the USA at that weight competing. The only Turkish wrestler in the competition will be going at 220 against the Soviet. Khadartsev of the Soviet Union in on a single leg. Drives, pulls down Jim Scheer of the United States and gets another point for the takedown as they go out of bounds. I sense that Khadartsev of the Soviet Union might have a little too much power here, particularly on an injured Jim Scheer. Scheer did look good in the National Freestyle Tournament and winning the title for the United States, or for his club. Khadartsev of the Soviet Union was a champion. We take a look at Ivania Regan, coach of the Soviet Union. Somewhat relaxed in the corner. World Cup held in the United States annually in Toledo. Khadartsev was the champion. He's won it twice. Has a leg lace here, drives Jim Scheer of the United States across his back. Picks up 2 more points, now leads 6-0. Starting to dominate in this match now over Jim Scheer of the United States. Trying to lock up that leg lace again. There he has it. Turn. Well, he didn't turn his back. Jim Scheer of the United States kicking out. Not turning to his back. 17 seconds remaining here in the first period. This man is going to have some words, I'm sure, in the corner. Although I don't think he can be too rough on Jim Scheer. Jimmy giving his best effort. I think maybe Khadartsev just a little bit better wrestler right now than Jim Scheer up at 198 pounds. So Jim Scheer goes over to the corner. Out of Chicago right now at Northwestern University. Goes to the Kellogg School of Management there. He was a World Cup champion at 180.5 pounds, and as I said, moving up here to 198, picking up another 18 pounds can make a lot of difference on how you compete in international competition. You're getting someone at that weight who possibly came down from 205, 210 pounds to make that weight class. Here we see that move by a leg lace by Khadartsev of the Soviet Union, spinning around, taking Scheer across his back and picking up the 2 points. It's a move you see a lot of. One of the officials, the referee, on the mat. Here's Khadartsev of the Soviet Union. We got a lot of brother acts in international wrestling. The Schultz brothers, the Scheer brothers. Beloglazovs for the Soviet Union. Khadartsev's at 198 and 220 for the Soviet Union. Second period, Jim Scheer of the United States right now down 6-0. I don't know if the conditioning can be a factor. Jim, always a well-conditioned athlete. Never seen him in a competition when he wasn't in great physical shape. A lot of wrestlers seem to reach into their bag of tricks when they get a little tired and come out on top, but Jim Scheer always relying on his condition to take him through a match. Attempts a single leg attack, but countered out of it. United States still has one more wrestler in this quest for the gold. Bruce Baumgartner, super heavyweight, be taking on a very tough Soviet, David Gobedjishvili. It'll be a rematch from the World Cup, which Bruce Baumgartner won by fall. Two minutes remaining. Khadartsev not really being too aggressive, but keeps that Soviet style, that stance, driving in with that head in the chest or lower ribs, keeps the pressure on, keeps the weight on. They're very physically strong. As a rule, they have much stronger lower backs than most American wrestlers. I'm not sure if it's the way they train or their lifestyle. Khadartsev, well, Jimmy Scheer doing a nice job of countering out here as they go off the mat. Well, that was not the referee calling for a caution against Jim Scheer, and he gets confirmation. I thought he was doing a pretty nice job of scrambling. Scheer's got to attack. There's no way he's going to make up a 7-point deficit being on the defense here. Khadartsev doing a lot of shooting, setting, reshooting. Scheer spending most of his time countering. Mahan Khadartsev on top, out of Tashkent. Hasn't been on the Soviet national team for more than about 2.5 years. Most of these athletes stay here for a long time. There's that same leg lace that he worked earlier, trying to set it up again. Referee should stop the action. There it is. Brings them back to their feet. 1 minute and 15 seconds to go. Jimmy Scheer already has 2 cautions. If he is cautioned again, he will be disqualified from the match. We saw that happen here when Mark Schultz of the United States was cautioned out when he was ill in his first go-around with the Bulgarians. The referee admonishing him right now, telling him to get moving. Head snap, spin around by Soviet wrestler Khadartsev. Gets another point for the takedown. Totally in control here, 8-0 over Jim Scheer. If he can score 4 more points, it would be a win by technical superiority. He hasn't appeared to me to be overly aggressive, just going kind of at his job here of scoring a point now and then. Comes in on the leg again. I don't know if that rib has been affecting Jimmy. He doesn't look like the Jim Scheer that I've seen wrestle before. Khadartsev gets another takedown. Well, this isn't going to be another gold medal for the United States. We still have that other chance at heavyweight. I would say that Bruce Baumgartner is a favorite in the heavyweight weight class. He pinned the last time out. He's looked awfully impressive. One of the most dominant wrestlers ever in the United States in his weight class. He hasn't lost in years in the U.S. Very smooth duck under by Khadartsev of the Soviet Union. These Soviet athletes displaying very impressive technique throughout this competition. They're very scientific. You can see it's a national program. They spend all their time training and learning. Well, it was a good effort by Jim Scheer of the United States, maybe hampered a little bit by a rib injury, but Mahan Khadartsev of the Soviet Union wins another, the 5th gold medal for the Soviet Union in this individual championship at the Goodwill Games. Here we see a single leg action. Khadartsev was in on a number of these. Soviets very good at leg attack and finishing up, really keep the pressure on, very strong. Bruce Baumgartner of the United States, the only American yet to wrestle here, coming up shortly. We'll see you in a moment. Gold medalist here at 163 pounds, 74 kilograms. The second American to win in this individual crown in the Goodwill Games. Did a nice job of coming back against Adlan Varaev of the Soviet Union. These award ceremonies coming one match delayed from the championship round. This is not the match that you just saw completed. It was the match preceding it at 163 pounds. The awards here, very non-traditional awards, but very nice ones, kind of folk gifts. That lacquer box, very nice article to receive, a souvenir to take back home. Second place, a samovar, a tea urn. Third place, a nice tea service. All things my wife would like to take home. Second place there, Adlan Varaev of the Soviet Union. And the third place, bronze medal to Rakhmat Sofedyadi of Bulgaria. He gave Dave Schultz everything he wanted on that first day. Came right down to the wire. If it had been about 5 more seconds, Dave Schultz may not have been standing on that award stand. But I guess he does those little things that get him to the top. Don't forget more of that USA-Bulgaria volleyball game still coming your way. And now the national anthem for the United States. We go back to Bob Neal and Nick Charles in the broadcast center.
Thank you, Russ. Good job on the wrestling coverage. Russ Hellickson, you can just tell by the sound of his voice when it's going to be close or be exciting. And the United States with a couple of gold medals there, coming back after being shut out over the weekend. I'm going to take a brief break, and I'm going to go get pumped and ready to watch the USA-Canada basketball that'll highlight our primetime coverage.
All of a sudden, that's a very important game. Call it a must-win for the United States.
Exactly.
Okay, Bob, we'll look for you soon. Meanwhile, Curt Goudy, if you've noticed, you probably have, the durable, distinctive Curt Goudy has been part of our covering the Goodwill games with us. He was host also of the American Sportsman for 20 years, and Curt traveled around the world. He saw a lot, including probably the most exotic animals on Earth. But last weekend, right here in Moscow, Curt got acquainted with some domestic breeds at one of the more fascinating places in town.
This is the famous Ptichny Rynok, the bird market of Moscow, one of the top tourist attractions in this city. Not only birds in here, but just about every kind of a pet you'll want to see. And on Saturday and Sunday mornings, hundreds of Muscovites come here not only to sell their pets, to buy, but sort of a giant pet bookstore, if you will, just to browse around. In Russian, they call these kotyoniks. I wonder if they call these budskis. Most of these animals are being sold as pets. And some of them, obviously not. They're going to go to work, or else. Aren't these the cutest little fellas you ever saw? Well, you can bet some goldfish will think so. Talk about a thaw in international relations. Who wouldn't just melt for these two smooching pooches? If I had a doggy bag, I'd take this one home. This pup's going home in style. You know, for the kids, this is as good as a zoo without the bars. They wanted the equivalent of 20 bucks for a pair of pigeons here. I haggled them down to 14, but then I quit. I don't want to be the one to leave some statue lonesome. They let sleeping dogs lie all over the place here. This one will make somebody a good sled dog if they ever get him out of his stroller. They have just about every kind of pet you've ever seen here. And a few you haven't. For me, well, whether I'm in Massachusetts or Moscow, there's one pet I'm always a sucker for. I guess I'm just going to the dogs. Curt Goudy for the Goodwill Games.
Welcome back to Moscow and our coverage of the Goodwill Games. We've been covering a lot of wrestling, and it's been a good night for the United States. They've bounced back and won 2 gold medals. A very special moment happened just moments ago. Dave Schultz of the United States, following his gold medal victory, went into the stands to greet 2 of his certainly his 2 most important fans. Wife Nancy and baby boy Alexander. Nancy made the trip with their little son, and once again, Schultz had his own rooting section. And even as Dave has said, luckily the baby resembles Nancy. But he did admit it. I didn't say, I'm not going to argue with the gold medal winner. But again, a touching moment at the games, and again, a lot of closeness and a lot of friendship and a lot of goodwill. Dave Schultz and company, gold medal winners. Okay, that's it from wrestling for now. We'll be back with more as coverage of the Goodwill Games continues from the Soviet Union. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Goodwill Games in Moscow, and welcome to men's volleyball. It opened today, and the United States opened as the solid gold medal favorite. U.S. against the Bulgarians, and the U.S. off in smashing, convincing style, won the first 2 games over Bulgaria. We pick up action now with Leandra Riley and Mike O'Hara at the Lenin Central Stadium complex in the 3rd game of the match.
The United States against Bulgaria. They have changed sides. The USA holds a 2-0 advantage over Bulgaria. If the U.S. should win this one, it's all over for the match. Bulgaria is side out. Our score is still 0-0 in game number 3.
Little setter, Playman Christoph, is very clever. He handles those bad passes about as well as anybody. And that's been key because Bulgaria has been passing badly. But, of course, that's partly because the United States has been serving well.
1 serving 0. Dvorak to Tanner. Goes right off the block, side out for the USA.
Tanner hitting nicely, reaching high. Predominantly, he's a setter, but on this team, they have wall-to-wall setters. They have 3 of the best setters in the world. So with Ricky Ludes and Jeff Stark backing up Dusty Dvorak, they have more depth than anybody. So if Troy's going to play on this team, he's going to have to play as a hitter.
One serving 0. Oh, bad pass.
Dave Sanders, who has been passing that ball well in the first 2 games, ball died on him, didn't take that quick step. And again, when you serve the ball, if you serve flat without any spin on the ball, a lot of times it'll do that. It'll zigzag and die. This time he tries for that same short serve and hits the net.
It died at the net.
Died prematurely.
And the stick-on number for Dimo Tonev is falling off his jersey.
Right back at you.
Saunders' serve died at the net. Borislav Kyosef serving for the Bulgarians.
Nice pass.
Timmons goes off the block, side out USA.
On that play, that's the 1 set, and Timmons is already in the air, as you can see, as that ball comes up, so he's ready to hit it on every play, and if he has to do that, even if he doesn't think he's going to get set, to keep that block on it. Good dig.
Partey to Karai. Partey was a good backup there. Karai putting it away.
Karai at 6'3", just goes up there, looks at the block, wipes it off, doesn't have to exert too much energy. When he needs to, he can rip that ball as well as anybody. Troy Tanner sticking out a hand. Ball didn't come up. There's our guy, Patio Dragiev. who's been very steady and strong for them all day long.
Another good serve by Golubinov. Golubinov setting from the deep side. Oh, the spike goes off the net.
Dragiev misses for the first time that I've noticed today.
So he is human. Timmons will serve. USA trails by 1.
Nice serve.
And that one out of bounds. No blocker touched it. Point, USA. 2-2.
So Timmons without his jump serve today, but the flat serve looks pretty tough.
Oh, Kenner didn't know where it went. Karai hits into the block. Side out, Bulgaria.
We're talking a 3-man block on that play. Everybody in the house knew that only, here it is, Curt Goudy could get it. He went up and looked for a hole, found none. Doug Partee, ready for that quick set. That's Dvorak, the finest pure setter in the world we're watching. Watch his quick feet out there. He's a picture.
And the USA cringes from that spike, side out, Bulgaria.
Yeah, that quick stuff works for everybody. But again, you have to have that pass up there where the setter can do something with it.
Dragiev serving for the Bulgarians. Timmons comes from the backcourt, but it's out of bounds. Point. And Bulgaria takes a 1-point lead, 3-2. Dvorak back to Partee again. The soft touch work.
Smart play. You hit it hard, it comes back. You just tuck it over that block. That's the dink. And once again, as in the second game, the United States starts slow.
Dvorak serving. Put that one away.
Next play, and then Bulgaria going to the second option.
Number 3 for Bulgaria, Borislav Khahzar. Troy Tanner. Oh. That's embarrassing when you're the setter and you pull your hands apart a little too much, and it just embarrasses you.
You do that 3 or 4 times and you sit down.
Right.
You start learning to hit.
One-handed set is good. He made up for it there.
Yeah.
Side out Bulgaria.
That was a beautiful set. The one-handed play is tough because you have a problem of throwing the ball. And if you don't throw it, then is it going to be up there where the spiker can hit it well?
Dvorak to Timmons, who tips it right over, side out.
Yeah, the United States team is learning that the Bulgarians are big blockers, but they're not quick in the backcourt, so they can do that all day long, I think.
Nice block by Tanner. And now our score is tied once again, 3 serving 3.
Dave Sanders serving that ball well, getting Bulgaria into trouble. Again, not a good pass. But they got away with it. The wipe shot. Tuck it in the backcourt.
Khahzar serving. Out.
The other great passer in this team is Stavertlik, Bob Stavertlik from Pepperdine, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get him into the game a little bit before we're through.
Reaching over called against the USA. Side out for Bulgaria. Our score is still 3-3.
Blocker is not allowed to reach over the net and interfere with the setter if he is setting. If he thinks he's hitting, then he can go over and get the ball. Nice serve.
Nice set.
Curt sees that block so well, and he saw that time there were 2 people up, but he could cut sharply to the right, and down it goes.
4-3.
Excellent vision. Troy Tanner, after a nice dig a minute ago, that time had a good pass to make, and he passed it too close to the net. They blocked it right back at him.
So the Bulgarians trying to hang in and salvage a game in that match against the United States. The U.S. looking very strong. We'll be back with that. Also, one more wrestling match. The super heavyweights. Bruce Baumgartner of the United States has revenge on his mind. We'll tell you about that and show it to you later. So stay with us as coverage of the Goodwill Games continues from Moscow. Welcome back to the Soviet Union. Later today on our primetime coverage, you'll see Mary Ann Laughlin's extraordinary interview via satellite with 2 Soviet cosmonauts in orbit. The pictures you see here show life aboard the Soviet space station Mir, which means peace. Leonid Kiznin and Vladimir Solovyoy. The cosmonauts were launched on March 13th aboard Soyuz T-15. They docked with Mir on March 15th. Here you see the treadmill that allows the cosmonauts to get exercise in space. That's the treadmill control box, and beyond it, post 1, the central workstation on the spacecraft. These are the cosmonauts' rooms in which they sleep and try to relax. Of course, they have gone through months of training to prepare for a weightless environment. Later today on our primetime coverage, we'll have more of these extraordinary pictures and Mary Ann Laughlin's exciting interview with the cosmonauts. By the way, we have learned that the 2-man crew is due to return on July 16th. This news has just been released here in Moscow, and we will keep you up to date on that mission. Before we go back to the wrestling, we'd like to share with you more of Bruce Baumgartner, at least beyond the wrestling mat. No U.S. heavyweight has ever won the Wrestling World Championship, but Bruce Baumgartner could be the first. At the age of 25, he has been wrestling for most of his life, often with his older brother, Bob. Here's our Goodwill profile.
My brother is 3 years older than me, brother Bob, and I used to enjoy watching him wrestle. I thought it was neat. You know, my brother and I always wrestled since we were probably, 2 feet high, breaking all Mom's dishes and whatever else was around on the coffee tables and so forth, and always got in trouble for it. And I enjoyed watching him wrestle. In high school, I'd go watch some of the practices and so on. So I decided that, I'd like to try that out. I was never as athletically inclined as my brother. He played football, baseball, track, just about every sport he could get into. And I watched him play football, and it didn't do a thing for me, but I enjoyed, watching him wrestle, and that's when I picked up on it and overshadowed in the wrestling area. I try to work out every day doing something. Most days I work out twice a day usually. The closer I get to competition, obviously, the more I intensify. It's a lot of fun for me to take an athlete and teach him something and have him use it and learn it and actually put it into his repertoire of moves. It's also frustrating. You try to tell him, the way I've done it, and it's real easy to say, well, this is the way I did it. I may be stronger than that individual or quicker than him. And it's hard sometimes for him to do the same things that I've done, and it's just frustrating trying to teach him something and have him not learn it. It's a difficult situation where it's a great feeling. It's like the greatest feeling in the world if you teach a guy to do something. Practices in the practice room, goes out there, does it in a match, and wins the match because of it. It's a great feeling. But if you go out there and try to teach him something, he goes out there on the mat on Saturday night, attempts to do what you taught him, does it wrong, and gets beat. It's real frustrating. Someday I'm going to have to retire, and I'm not looking forward to that because it's going to kind of be a whole new lifestyle. Now I either coach wrestling or work out a good portion of every day. And sooner or later, that's going to more or less stop to where I may just coach a little bit, but then, the wrestling and working out part won't be there.
Bruce was voted among the top 5 collegiate scholar athletes in 1982. Though he's multifaceted, his whole life has revolved around wrestling. His hobbies, woodworking and stamp collecting, help to break the tedium of training. Bruce is increasingly concerned about what he will do after retiring as a competitor. We will rejoin that volleyball match as the USA swung into action against Bulgaria a little later, but right now to the immediate moment and for Bruce Baumgartner, and that's how to defeat a very formidable Soviet opponent and win the gold medal. For more on that, let's go to the Druzhba Multipurpose Gym and Russ Hellickson.
Just completing the award ceremonies here at 198 pounds, where Jim Scheer received a silver medal to Mahan Khadartsev of the Soviet Union. We're awaiting the final match here of the individual championships in the Goodwill Games. Bruce Baumgartner of the United States versus David Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union. I'm being joined here in my announce booth by gold medalist for the United States, David Schultz, my color commentator, and I guess the color for the evening is gold, right, Dave?
Luckily so.
Luckily so? I don't think so. You know, I noticed when you were walking around here, everybody was getting your autograph, and I'm very offended. Nobody's taken mine yet. You know any reason for that?
Well, Russ, in sports, fame dies quickly.
Is that what it is? Is that what
You're only as good as your last match, I guess.
My last match was a long time ago. I see you brought Nancy and Alexander. Alexander, it sounds like a Russian name.
I like the name Sasha, but in the U.S., any name that ends in A is considered effeminate. My middle name's Leslie, so I couldn't really name him Sasha. It wouldn't be fair, you know.
It wouldn't be fair. Your shape in this tournament wasn't great. You admitted that yourself. How do you feel about coming through with the gold in spite of that?
I think a lot of it's psychological, you know. I kind of feel like I wasn't intense enough, and I didn't get my intensity up high enough for that young Bulgarian. And I think it's something I have to deal with, you know. I have to learn that now I'm one of the older guys. It seems like yesterday I was the young Bulgarian.
Bruce Baumgartner in the red singlet here versus David Gobedjishvili. Gobedjishvili having the obvious height advantage here in the mat. Comes in on a single leg, pulls it to the outside and takes Baumgartner down to the mat. No point yet. He has to get his knees down. He has not scored a point yet. International rules, either that knee must go down. There it is. 1 point, immediately hits the hip tilt, and they'll give him 2. Not the strategy, I guess the early start that Bruce Baumgartner probably anticipated. 3-0, he is behind David Gobedjishvili. The last time out in the World Cup, Bruce Baumgartner pinned David Gobedjishvili. Gobedjishvili doing a short arm drag here, coming around behind. Again, needs to put the knee down. The Soviet wrestler starting out very fast. This obviously wasn't the strategy Bruce had coming into this match, Dave.
No, not at all. Bruce can beat this guy, but the 2 times that I know of that Bruce has lost to this guy, the guy came out, stung him right away, and then held off with the points he got.
You've coached some of the USA teams. I know you've been here to the Soviet Union with a team, and do you think that Bruce Baumgartner is the type of guy that, you know, could really dominate for a long time at heavyweight?
I think he's done a really good job of it already. He'll probably, I think 88's the end of the line for Bruce, but I could see him easily winning a world championship this year and then going on and winning a gold medal in the Olympics.
You had said something earlier about a little strategy, I guess, as a teammate of Bruce, relative to this match with Gobedjishvili.
Well, I think Bruce needs to use it now, you know. He needs to get on top of him and turn him. I think he's going to try to go low to his legs and get him to come up and go for a gut wrench, which is one of his better techniques. Gobedjishvili seemed susceptible to it.
All right. There it is. There it is. Double leg attack.
Here we go.
Bruce Baumgartner, very powerful double leg. Every time you watch him in international wrestling, there's his gut wrench you're talking about.
Nice.
There it is. There it is. There's 2 points. Settle down, Dave. 2 points. David Schultz, United States, getting almost as excited as he must have been in his own match. That's okay. You can be as excited as you want to be, Dave.
I hope Bruce kills this guy.
That's great. Okay, David, very good. Bruce Baumgartner, United States, coming back here. 4-3 right now, favored David Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union.
This is great.
Now, you said you thought that Gobedjishvili had a bad rib.
That's a possibility.
You weren't sure of that.
If Bruce can finish this period 4-3 and make him work, I'll bet you he can win this match.
Okay, well, we were counting on him winning anyway.
Oh,
nice. Another shot. Another shot by Bruce Baumgartner. They go out of bounds.
That's great.
Still 4-3. 9 seconds remaining in this first period. Who's that right there?
Hey, it's a young one.
That's the young one. 3 months old. Pretty young to be bringing him to the Soviet Union.
Well, it's not like I had much choice.
Time running out here. The end of the first period. This is Bruce Baumgartner in the last period. This is the final match here in the Goodwill Games for freestyle wrestling. David Gobedjishvili of the Soviet Union here in the blue singlet, leading right now 4-3. He scored the first 4 points, but Bruce Baumgartner has come back very strong.
If Bruce can just keep this tight here, this is when this guy's going to be most dangerous, just like the first period. Right after he rests, he's going to come out. Now, if Bruce can make him flurry a couple times, make him work, he could score, he could win this match.
The strategy of the game from Dave Schultz, already a gold medalist. There's his wife, Nancy, little baby Alexander. They're not watching this match like they watched you, Dave.
Well, you know, he's my fan.
He's your fan. Bruce Baumgartner, 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes remaining in this final period. The last time these two giants went at it, Bruce Baumgartner, the winner by fall.
This is good. Now.
Shot by Gobedjishvili in on the leg.
Watch this.
Yes, there it is, there it is.
Yes, yes, yes.
Out of bounds, out of bounds.
What?
They're not going to, no points.
That was the close call.
Gable up on his feet too, Dave. That was close. They could have given 1 point to Bruce Baumgartner as Gobedjishvili went out of bounds. They did not. 2 of the 3 officials on this match must agree in order for a call to go on the scoreboard. You see the time running up. When it gets to 6 minutes, this match is over. Still 4-3.
I was a little on the dark side of the gray area there.
Dark side of the gray.
Yeah.
The 2 heavyweights leaning on each other right now.
Oh, yes.
Snap down to the front headlock. Gobedjishvili backs out of it. The referee calling for a caution here. The red armband coming up, the red hand, calling for a caution against Baumgartner, but not confirmed. Minute and 15 seconds remaining. Baumgartner still behind. He needs to score. He's got to be on the offensive.
I'll tell you why they cautioned him right there. To put him down, let that Russian rest so Bruce won't score again.
Well, don't you think the officiating's fair?
I think it's fair. They're coached, though. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if it's close and they can help a little bit at times, you know.
The Soviet Union already having 7 individual gold medals, going for their 8th here. The USA has the other 2. They'd like their 3rd with Bruce Baumgartner winning here at heavyweight. He's behind right now 4-3. He has 1 caution against him. 1 minute remaining in this match. Only 1 minute remaining. Gut wrench. Gobedjishvili attempting the gut wrench. The fans calling for action. Coach Ivan Urigan of the Soviet Union.
Russ, who has the 2-pointers here? Does Gobedjishvili have any?
Gobedjishvili does not have a 2-pointer.
1 point will win it.
1 2-pointer, which he scored earlier in the match.
All right, so Bruce needs 2.
Bruce needs 2 points in order to win this match. Yes. No, he can't. Yes. There it is. 1 point takedown for Bruce Baumgartner.
Do it.
1 point.
Do it.
If it's a tie right now, I think, Dave, that Bruce Baumgartner of the United States can win this match with this tie.
Is that
he can win this match. The Soviet Union had a 2.
2-pointers. That's true. Oh, don't flip out.
He's turning the deep pass. Deep pass. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Time is running out.
Yeah.
Time is running out. Yeah. There it is. The end of the match. The end of the match. Bruce Baumgartner grimacing. His knees have bothered him. He's talked about retiring because of those knees. And Bruce Baumgartner does win this match.
Great.
What a comeback for Bruce Baumgartner of the United States. He has not lost in the United States for a long time. The only man international to beat him has been this David Gobedjishvili, who took the lead early in the match. Bruce displaying the fight that has made him the competitor that he is. He wins the gold medal for the United States. Hobbling to the side, shaking the hand. He's hurt. Those knees have got to bother him, Dave.
He really has bad knees. Both anterior cruciate ligaments are gone. I mean, it moves around. It's terrible.
And no time to do much about him if you're thinking about 1988.
No, he's very mentally tough. He won't give up.
Here we go, Dave. Here's a look at that last single leg shot. It started out to be a double, but only one leg in. There he goes, takes him down to the mat for the winning takedown. The way this match was decided, when Bruce got that takedown, he tied the match 4-4. In international wrestling, there are no tie matches. It's decided by criteria. They both had 1 2-point move and 2 1-point moves. The deciding criteria when they're matched up that way, who had the last point scored? That, of course, was Bruce Baumgartner of the United States, and he comes out on top to win the 3rd gold medal for the United States. We'll be back in a moment.
Back to the Goodwill Games. It's been a stirring night in Moscow for American wrestlers. 6 of them went to the mat looking for gold medals in the individual finals. 3 have come away with the gold medal. And a come-from-behind victory for Bruce Baumgartner. You saw it just moments ago. There's Baumgartner being declared the winner. What a stunning comeback it was for him. And a compelling one, and he did it writhing in pain. His knee's been troubling him, and there we see him being attended to now with a huge ice pack. Bruce Baumgartner, guts and glory for the American as the 240-pounder wins the gold medal in the 130-kilo division. So we'll have more of the U.S. against the Bulgarians as volleyball, men's volleyball open tonight. The U.S. favored to win the gold medal, but there's a lot of work ahead. All of that and more coming up when we return to Moscow. Welcome back to the Soviet Union, the Goodwill Games, and the central issue tonight, wrestling. 3 American gold medals in 6 events they were entered in. The Soviets picked up a few also. Soviets with the most powerful team in the world, but the Americans sure distinguished themselves this evening. Volleyball open, men's volleyball, the United States favored and expected to meet the Soviet Union in the final game. But this, the first step, they're doing very well against the Bulgarians. The U.S. leads it 2-0. We pick up action with Leandra Riley and Mike O'Hara in the 3rd game.
Doug Partee serving for the USA, who now enjoys a 3-point lead. Side out for Bulgaria, 9-6. The United States on top in game number 3. In the first 2 games, it was the USA winning 15-8, 15-9. This could be the final game of the match. Into the block, it's still up, still alive. Pat Powers lobs an easy one. Nice cut on that one by Khahzar. Saw the block and went around it.
This is a great big team out there now. They average about 6'7" per man, whereas our team averages 6'4".
Powers was around the block.
Again, height isn't everything, but the United States team averages 195 pounds, 25 years of age, 6'4". They lost one of their biggest and best players, Craig Buck, after the Olympics. He retired, about 9 months ago to go into business. And that was a major loss because it made that team a lot smaller. They were one of the largest teams in the tournament. Now they're one of the smaller.
And that one goes off the block. Pat Powers will step back to serve. USA on top, 9-7. There's that fellow with 6'11", Ganev for Bulgaria.
Oh. Powers gets back 800 feet from the court and then serves into the net.
Second service error in a row for the USA.
Steve Timmons up there, hungry, ready to hit. Sharply to the right. Here he is. Bang. Nobody home.
Over the block, it's still up. Off the block.
6'9" Dimo Tonov hitting that 10-foot line nicely. That time, I think number 4 didn't even get his hands up in time to block. Here he is. He doesn't even get off the ground. No wonder they've had him sitting. Dvorak and Doug Partee blocking that ball right back on the line. Here they watch it carefully. Chalk. Another good ball.
Ooh, bad pass right to Bulgaria.
Dave Saunders had that ball slip off his hand, jump over the net, crash.
7 serving 10, game number 3. Timmons from out of the locker room just about.
Loves that play. No block up there. Bang.
And it's interesting to note his starting position. He's in the back court and just had to come around the right side. A lot of quickness in their back court.
He has no responsibility other than be ready for that one play. Everybody else has something else to do.
11-7 на подаче Douglas Dvorak.
11 serving 7. Did it touch the block? They are saying no. Side out Bulgaria.
Замена в команде Болгарии.
Substitution for the Bulgarian team coming into the game is Slamen Christoph. He will serve.
Substitution Bulgarian team. Number 8 enters the game.
Partee gets the side out for the USA. 11 serving 7. Still up. Oh. Dvorak puts it over, but Bulgaria puts the hammer down.
Nemo Tona hitting that quick set extremely well.
Tonev serving. Dvorak goes back to Timmons, who really does the off-speed dink.
Nice touch. He didn't really have time to rip that ball because it wasn't very high above the net, so he just tucked it in. And the United States continues to do in this match what they've been doing in their entire career, and that is fighting out well. When the ball is served to them, they very seldom give up many points. And that's what makes them so tough, is that they just refuse to allow the other team to score points.
Substitution for the United States. Dave Saunders will come out. Bob Stavertlik will go in and serve. 11 serving 4.
Stavertlik is 6'4", 200-pounder, 23 years of age, from Long Beach, and he played at Pepperdine, and he's another one of these excellent passers that had such a vital role and responsibility.
Garbage ball at the net for a while there. Good block by the U.S. Galabinov with a well-placed dink, side out.
That was the high dink, and no one could quite get to it. Everybody dug in.
Borisov Klyasov serving. As you look at Dusty Dvorak, the setter for the U.S.
Stavertlik contributes to the team. His versatility, he's very good on defense, excellent ball controller. Out of the athletic equipment, he's a banker in San Diego.
USA called for reaching over, point for Bulgaria.
Strange call.
8 serving 11. Our official is Francis Laguna from France.
Take that. Call me, will you?
And Pat powers himself in there.
What a great name for a volleyball player. Pat Powers.
It looks like Marcia Bond and Angela Rock on the USA women's side.
Right.
A couple of great names.
Hope he plays as well in this tournament as they both did.
And Aaron Falls just hit a photographer right in the lens. I'm sure his eye is going to feel good.
Fortunes of war.
Dink by Timmons. Off the block.
Missed.
Saying no.
Missed it cold, yeah. That was Hetio Dragia.
Timmons to the service. Looks like he's going to jump serve. Substitution for Bulgaria. Petkov comes back in, the team captain. Petkov, number 7.
And the average of the team goes way down. 6'3" goes in for 6'11".
Petkov, a much quicker, much more agile player than the 6'11" Ghana.
Yeah, I like the way Petkov plays.
There it is right there. Petkov coming in, showing his stuff.
Flops his way through that block. Bobs to Vertlik, almost had a hand on that.
Khadartsev. Set up for Bulgaria. It is 8 serving 12. No, it is 8-11, or it's a change in the score from our official scorekeeper.
Nice set. And down it goes. Dusty Dvorak, Khadartsev. We'll say that a few times in this tournament, Leandra.
Kirai serving 11, serving 8. Bob Stavertlik protesting a call from the official. In vain.
Stavertlik is in the back row, and he jumped to set that ball.
Timmins dances off the net, side out.
Got away with it. Hit that ball a little bit low. That wasn't quite to his liking. The old trip of the net shot. And Dusty Dvorak, who's been collecting some points on his service, goes back at 11-8. Well, second option worked again. Block went up for the first guy on the X, and they went to the second spiker.
Simon Christoph serving for Bulgaria.
And right back at you. Second option on the X again. Dusty Dvorak felt that was a good idea. It worked for Bulgaria. Why not for us?
Coverage continues here at Lennon Central Stadium, smaller arena. Leander Riley along with Michael O'Hara. And you just saw a side out. The United States is on top, 12-8. And in game competition, the United States took the first 2 games of this best-of-5 match. And this is game number 3. Side out Bulgaria.
Caught the baton off the block. Bulgaria not getting consistent deception on their offense, and therefore the block can line up on them.
Karai.
Good play, only one blocker up there. Karch handled that with ease. Bang.
Pat Powers serving. Good block by Timmins. Timmins and Dvorak blocking. Karai hits it too low into the net, side out.
Dusty had a hard time getting that ball up to where he wanted it, and Karch had to work hard to get in position for it and really didn't get a good angle on it.
Best server for Bulgaria behind the line now. Oh, he doesn't do the jump serve.
Takes a lot out of you to jump serve every time if you're spiking.
Side out, USA. Jeff Stark will come out of the game. Doug Parchee will go back in for the front row.
Stark is coming off an injury. He hurt his knee in Palo Alto when they were playing the Cubans, and hasn't been playing much since. He's had to recuperate. He had an operation on it.
Over the block.
Steve Timmins and Dave Saunders, Khadartsev all hitting well in this game.
13 serving 8. Side out.
Petkov reaching high and hitting well.
Dragiev serving for Bulgaria as you look at Khadartsev. Timmons hits it into the net. Point, Bulgaria. Nine serving 13.
Doug Partee ready up there for the quick set. On that play, you had both Powers and Timmons floating in the backcourt ready to be set.
Through the block, side out for Bulgaria.
That time they stretched up over Dusty Dvorak. Went right over him. Nice combination there. Dusty Dvorak going to Doug Partee with some regularity, and he's hitting the ball, tucking it in really well. This is a good chance to show what he can do. Two quick hits by Dimo Tonov, both successfully executed. Bulgaria hanging in there nicely.
Zvertlik. Number 4 in blue, Bob Zvertlik. Doug Partee serving. Well executed play by Tonov. At 6'9", he has a lot of time to get up there and think about things.
Yeah, very smart, though, in addition to being big and strong. Nice player. Ooh, Pat Powers sharply across court.
You could see that lane open up as the set was coming up. The blockers just weren't there.
Turns sharply. He has such good hitting style.
Zvertlik serving. Zvertlik setting. Timmons sends it out of bounds.
Nice set by Zvertlik. Nice dig.
And the U.S. can't seem to buy a point. Khahzar serving.
Good pass.
Powers.
Pat trying to take something off that ball. Totally missed the court on it. And it's 10-13.
And Bulgaria has crept right back into this ball game.
Crowd like to see a little comeback here.
And again, the side out. Let's see if they can get the point.
2-point match here. 13-10.
Bad pass. That's out. Nobody touched it. And finally, the USA has gotten their 14th point. It is now game and match point on the line.
Power serving the balloon ball, and they couldn't handle it over there. Sits back there, way back away from the court, and just lofts it up.
Substitution for Bulgaria. Denisov back in the game.
In trouble again.
That's it.
Center puts the ball away. Dusty Dvorak ends it for the United States as they win 15-8, 15-9, 15-10.
And tomorrow we have more volleyball excitement for you when the USA takes on Japan for their second match in pool play.
USA team.
It's been a sparkling day here in Moscow for 3 American wrestlers, certainly. 6 U.S. men took the mat against the Soviets. And the U.S. won 3, the Soviets won 3. Fitting, perhaps, in these games of mutual cooperation and understanding. First, John Smith, from Oklahoma State, won gold. Then Dave Schultz struck. And finally, big Bruce Baumgartner with a stirring come-from-behind victory in the heavyweight class. And here he is now receiving his gold medal.
Двукратный олимпийский чемпион, неоднократный чемпион мира, Европы и Советского Союза, заслуженный мастер спорта СССР Сослан Андиев.
The medals award, twice Olympic champion, world and European champion, merited Moscow sport, Soslан Андиев.
And the man he finally defeated, his chief nemesis.
Gobedjishvili, USSR, has won a silver medal.
Он награждается серебряной медалью, дипломом и ценным призом.
These two have had a tremendous rivalry over the last year and a half. And tonight was Bruce Baumgartner's night.
Третьим призером в этой весовой категории стал Adlan.
And to complete the picture, Bulgaria with the bronze.
Он награждается бронзовой медалью, дипломом и ценным призом.
And we'll be back to wrap it up after this. Stay with us from Moscow. So it's been a night here in Moscow to remember, especially for those who competed and certainly for those who won. And here is one of them. 3 United States gold medals. Join Bob Neal and Marianne Laughlin tonight as coverage continues from the Soviet Union. So long from Moscow for the moment, but the Goodwill Games continue.
The 1986